We've got online,
Could any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device please mute it to avoid feedback? Could remote participants please keep their cameras and microphones off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. This meeting is being live webcast and recorded, and the recording will stay on the council's website. I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's hybrid Sheppey Area Committee meeting. I'm the Chair, Elliot James. The following Swarthmore Council officers are in attendance: Director of Regeneration and Neighbourhoods, Emma Wiggins on my left, Policy Engagement Officer, Janet Dart on my right. I'd also like to welcome Joseph Radcliffe, who is online from Kent County Council, who will be giving a presentation on the Kent Local Transport Plan 5 later on. We have Laura Day from Kent Police, who is here to talk about child-centred policing. And we have Jim Duncan, the CEO of Seashells, who's also here to give a presentation on KTC's Seashells Family Hub consultation. And Councillor Richard Palmer, the Chair of Community and Leisure Committee, is also in attendance to give an update on the Shingle Bank. Do we have any parish and town council attendance? Just make yourself known, please, by raising your hands. Thank you, Chris, Ben.
Sorry,
John.
Have you all signed in? Can I ask especially for parish councils? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Parish council, if you'd like to speak on any item, please raise your hand and I'll invite you in turn to speak. Likewise, can anyone attending remotely, please mute their microphone until they ask to speak and indicate with the instant messenger or raising their hand function. Thank you. Agenda item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. Please be aware of the evacuation procedure to follow an event emergency. There is no scheduled test of fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions via the fire exit and assemble outside as directed by the hall staff and await instruction before re-entering the building. Should anyone require assistance in evacuating the building, please make us aware now. Okay. I'd like to hold a minute's silence for former councillor Steve Worrell and former mayor, who sadly died on Tuesday. Thank you, members. Thank you. Councillor Brinkler, if you could turn your camera off, please, online. Item 2, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies, Janet?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Andy Booth, Councillor Ashley Shield and Councillor Hayden Braun. We also, although they are online, we do have apologies from Councillor Mike Whiting and Councillor Mark Tucker, but I see they are both online. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3 is declaration of interest. Does anyone have any declarations to make? Councillor Worcester.
Seashell Centre.
Non-pecuniary, okay, thank you. So any others? Okay. Next up, agenda item 4, the minutes Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of February 2024, minutes number 560 to 665, and the 15th of May, minutes number 31 to 32 is a correct record?
Good.
Do all members agree that?
Yeah.
And I will sign them. Next up, agenda item 5, Kent Local Transport Plan 5. I would like to introduce Josie Radcliffe, who is online from Kent County Council, who will give a presentation on this plan. Joseph, would you like to start?
Good evening. Sorry, I heard some other talking. I didn't know if you're ready for me to start. Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm Joe Radcliffe, Transport Strategy Manager at Kent County Council. I'm just going to share a few slides with you. Only take about 10 minutes and then be time for some questions. Apologies if you have been to any of the other Swale area meetings or are due to go to the Joint Transportation Board in a few weeks' time. The slides are pretty much the same. Or indeed, if you are a KCC member and have already seen this at County Hall. Can everyone see the slides okay?
Please move forwards if you can't see. Please continue.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So I'm just going to briefly take you through what a local transport plan is, the consultation itself, and when the process will be completed. So just for those that don't know, this is a statutory document that the County Council has to produce as set out under the Transport Act of 2000, as amended by the Local Transport Act of 2008. Which basically says each local transport authority must develop policies for the promotion and encouragement of safe, integrated, efficient and economic transport to, from and within their area, and carry out their functions so as to implement those policies. In other words, what the county needs, where, by when and why it needs it. So this is the 5th local transport plan since the Act came in 2000. They used to run every 5 years. The Local Transport Act of 2008 removed that requirement. The current local transport plan is called Delivering Growth Without Gridlock, and that was adopted back in 2017 and was meant to run until 2031. However, we conducted an early review of that plan and concluded that several things were out of date, notably what had happened in the time since its adoption. The UK leaving the European Union, a global pandemic, the move to try to achieve net zero carbon by 2050 and the legal duties around that. And also a lot of the schemes within it had either been delivered, were on their way to being delivered, or were never going to be delivered. So we felt like we needed a fresh pipeline of projects. And at the same time, the government, the Department for Transport, wanted all local transport authorities to update their plans and gave some modest funding to do that, and did promise us new guidance, which then never materialised. And we're in a bit of a unknown situation with the new government having come in just a few weeks ago. So anyway, we embarked on creating a new local transport plan. Now, 1 year ago, we did consult on something called the Emerging Local Transport Plan, which was basically asking for people's views on an overall ambition, which is on the screen here. I'm not going to read all of that out. It's the, the usual stuff about delivering a safe, reliable, affordable transport system, recognising Kent's role as both an international gateway and an area for lots of growth, plus recognising its unique environment. And the overall ambition to try and achieve that ambition by delivering emission-free travel, by getting better electric vehicle charging infrastructure for the move to electric vehicles, increasing public transport and making walking cycling attractive, all while trying to make our network far more resilient and meet future needs, with road maintenance being a big part of that. So to deliver that ambition, we set out and consulted, and these have been changed following that consultation, 10 what are called policy outcomes, which again around the screen there. This is all in the document, and we're not, although people can comment on these priorities, that isn't the main purpose of this current consultation, which is basically about the schemes. So, or really the implementation plan. So, although just a sort of health warning, the plan is very much aspirational, and doesn't have any funding attached to it, and therefore any sort of milestones in terms of delivery, but I'll come on to that at the end. So the document is arranged around sort of 3 different levels: strategic, big projects, county-wide, and then local district proposals. So this slide on the screen here just shows you what our priorities are in the transport plan for the strategic road network. The strategic road network meaning motorways and trunk roads, which are not Kent County Council's responsibility. They are the responsibility of a government-owned company called National Highways, owned by government, who get 5-year funding blocks in what's called Road Investment Strategies, or RIS. Well, they did do. I don't know if the new government's going to continue with them. And basically, although we wouldn't deliver these ourselves, it does add weight, being that this is a statutory document, to say to National Highways, look, these are our priorities, and therefore that should be translated into their business planning and their bid to DFT for what funding they get to deliver their 5-year plan. So Lower Thames Crossing, number 1, is the big thing that's still there. That was a key feature of the previous plan. Waiting on a decision for that, due by the 4th of October, as to whether that goes ahead or not. And then following from that is a whole series of improvements that are needed along the A2-M2 corridor, including at Brenley Corner, in the east of the Swale district, and then that whole corridor all the way down to Dover, with completion of the dualling of the Lyddon to Dover section, plus the section around Sittingbourne is very much the original 1960s build of 2 lanes, which needs to have increased capacity, and there are no plans by National Highways as of yet to do that, so therefore emphasising that's a priority in our plan. Alongside that, you've got the M20 and better management of freight traffic, especially preferred alternative to what's done with Operation Brock and its predecessor Operation Stack, in terms of using the motorway as a giant queue in times of disruption. Moving on from that are the local road network proposals on our main roads, and the big thing there is the A229 or Bluebell Hill connection between the 2 motorway corridors. And I should have said on the previous slide as well, the A249, I'll just go back one actually, obviously that is a strategic road by National Highways north of the M2 from junction 5, which is just recently nearing completion for the improvement works there, to the port of Sheerness. That's a trunk road, but the section between the M2 and the M20 is KCC's road, which there are proposals to potentially what's called trunk that road, which means it would become part of the strategic road network under National Highways remit. And that's the same for Bluebell Hill as well. Those 2 roads are being considered. To do that, improvements are needed, potential improvements at junction 7 at the Maidstone end of it as well, to complement the works that were taking place at junction 5. So the local road network improvements, there focus on that 229 connection, the whole of the A228 going south, and various others across the county as well. Public transport proposals, again, these focus on fast track expansion in Kent Thameside area and the new system going in at Dover, and also rail improvements. And the boxes in red on these slides, network-wide proposals, and there were ones for the other slide as well, apply to all across the county. So in terms of rail, again, it's not KCC's responsibility to deliver rail services, but our priorities are very much listened to by the rail industry as they make their plans. And it's an aspiration for at least a half-hourly service from every station in Kent to allow better connections, local connections via rail, rather than the traditional sort of focus on everything getting to London as quickly as possible, which is important, but also we have a rail network there that could make better connections for local journeys. And delivery of public transport proposals are very much focused around the delivery of what's called the Bus Service Improvement Plan, or BSIP, which was consulted on a few years ago and is being delivered. And obviously the need for better funding for buses, which is wholly inadequate, and that needs to come with the potential powers for bus franchising, etc., that are being offered down now to local authorities through the new government. Plan also looks at the cycling network. These are some of the strategic corridors on the screen: the A2 through Sittingbourne, and number 5 there, Sheerness Laysdown cycling corridor, and number 4, Maidstone to Sittingbourne. The sort of view is that, you know, people might cycle part of these corridors, and then you link everything together to make a continuous corridor. Very few people would actually cycle long distances, although some people do. And also walking zones as well. So this is focused in town centres. The dots on the map here, improving walking zones to make walking more attractive, and public realm improvements as well. Very much a focus of the district councils. Moving specifically onto the Swale district, every district in the plan has a map like this. I've obviously just put up the Swale one for this evening. So you can see there the proposals. The red box in the bottom right there shows, you know, some of the network wide ones that apply to Swale, such as the rail service improvements, like I said, and specifically the line up to Sheppey, and the bus service improvement plan, and the Medway main line as well from Faversham on the main line. We talked about already the strategic priorities there for the M2 capacity improvements and Friendly Corner, completion of the 249 works at Key Street, Grovehurst, of course, being delivered at the moment, and looking at how town centre congestion in Sittingbourne is addressed, with potential new roads, completion perhaps of the Northern Relief Road, if development comes through to fund that, and looking at potential for a new route to the M2 and new motorway junction, which would be developer led. On the Isle of Sheppey, very much the focus is on what's called the LC WIP, which is the Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, and the KC WIP, the Kent Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan proposals, which is looking at those corridors and those zones. So again, the one that's marked on there is the Sheerness to Laysdown corridor. And we've had some feedback about through the consultation events that we've run about where that corridor should go. And we've also had feedback about the need to improve the lower road as well, which is something that we will consider as we finalise the plan. Obviously, this is a consultation. We're asking for people's views. Are these the right priorities? Are they the wrong priorities? Have we missed anything out? What else should we be considering? That's the purpose of consultation. This is not the final plan. So yeah, just in summary then, the plan is aiming to strike a balance between the need to maintain the road network. Road maintenance is a very high priority, and get better funding to support buses, along with some of the key schemes. This graph here, though, shows how much funding is required over an indicative life of a plan, say up to 2037. And as I said at the start, you know, the plan is unfunded. We need to have a conversation with government about how it could be funded, and therefore, you know, some of these proposals delivered. But it's by no means this is a plan that KCC is going to deliver. This is a plan that we hope to deliver if funding becomes available. Have our priorities in order so we know what we'd want to deliver. But yeah, there's so much unknown about how transport's going to be funded at the moment. We wait and see. So the consultation runs for a few more weeks to the 8th of October. We were out in Sheppey at where were we? At the library in Sheerness on last week, I think it was, and we're going to Sittingbourne next week. So we've had a few events in the area. We've been to, this is now our 3rd area meeting of Swale. And we've got the 4th one next week, and the Joint Transportation Board as well at the beginning of October. All the information is on the website, or you can request hard copies through the email address and we'll send those to you. And then once the consultation closes, we'll obviously look at all the feedback. We do want people's views, organisations and individuals, and we will consider them all, and then redraft the plan, which will then be put back to the county council. This is one of the few documents at KCC where the entire council has a vote. Every member has a vote to decide whether it's adopted or not. It is not an executive decision, although the executive lead it. It is an all-member decision to adopt or not the plan. We hope to do that by the end of the calendar year or early next year. Thank you for listening. I'll stop sharing now, and happy to take any questions through the chair. Thank you very much.
Two things from me. How well attended was the consultation event at the Gateway?
I think we had about 20 or so people over the course of the afternoon, which is about average. Some we've had a lot more, where we've had been in shopping centres, we've had much greater footfall, but where we've tended to go to libraries, gateways and other community centres, attendance has been around 20 people or so. So yeah, disappointing numbers really. We've had some worse than that, and obviously we've had some better as well.
I think that was due to the time and lack of advertising. Another point from me is your cycling route. Have you driven along that, or has any of your officers driven along it? Because it is the wrong route. Unless you're an athlete, you'll find coming downhill and it lays down, but unless you're an athlete, you're walking your bike up the main roads. And your plan says you're going to put a few signs up. That's not safe. I'm sure you've heard of the Sheppey Light Railway Greenaway plan. That should be what KCC should be consulting on. And I'm sure that'll be the feedback we'll get from people. I've got Councillor McDonald first, and I'll come to Councillor Noel, and then Councillor Nunley.
Yes, Peter MacDonald, Swale Council. I've got two issues actually. One that's just been raised by our chairman. The route that you've chosen for cycling, Plough Road, is extremely dangerous. My next door neighbour, quite some years ago, was actually killed on a bicycle along there. There is no, it's a single carriageway road. It would be much better to have a look at as he suggested, the Greenway project, which is being done by a local group. That's the cycle route. As usual, there's pretty little for the Isle of Sheppey. We're quite used to that, and that's not being sarcastic. As far as the rail is concerned, I didn't understand you were actually doing anything on the rail or recommending anything, but you ought to be, because the Isle of Sheppey is one of the 10 most deprived areas in the country, and that's official. Although we're much smaller than a lot of areas, and we need an improved rail system, frankly, getting back to normal, and maybe through trains for 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. The existing train, which is run by South Eastern from Raynham, I went on that to a meeting with the Department of Transport in London and South Eastern, and there was hardly anybody on it. So if it had started at Sheerness, it could have picked up people from the islands. Okay, it would build up slowly. People from my way getting on at Swale, and all the northern Sittingbourne people at Kemsley, and that would actually load quite well. I am professionally qualified in transport with a great deal of experience, so I think I probably know something about transport. I think that's. Oh, and I would like to congratulate the construction firm. You mentioned very briefly about Grovehurst. I thought it was absolutely incredible that they're able to put that new span for the bridge in a couple of days. Absolutely astonishing, and I think they did very, very well, quite frankly. So that's it at the moment, but I will be bending your ear in the future, I've no doubt.
Councillor Noel?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Pellegrini, Swale Council. Just echoing what has been said about the Sheppey Light Railway. The group that is currently working on it has already planned out and mapped the route They are already doing work on it. It is a much, much better route than the one the KCC is proposing. The one that is being proposed is quite dangerous. I would never recommend anybody cycling on parts of that route. It's not good. So please give the Sheppey Light Railway some consideration.
Councillor Nunley.
Thank you, Tom Nundu, Swellborough Council. So once again, it feels like we're being let down by KCC, who seem to show absolutely no interest in the Isle of Sheppey whatsoever, but every interest in everywhere else in Kent. Bus and rail, I know that there's limited proposals for some improvement to the Sittingbourne Sheerness line, but as usual, nothing about buses. And quite frankly, the provision for public transport via bus on the Isle of Sheppey is below subpar. Once again, there's no actual talk about improvements to the road network on the island. The lower roads has to do with increasing amounts of traffic as housing developers build increasing amount of houses. The lower road is not fit to continue to sustain the amount of traffic that it takes. And if you intend on using that at any point as part of a cycling network, you're going to need to make that a bigger road and actually have a designated cycle lane. Now, there is one on part of the lower road which runs between Barton Hill Drive and Cowsmith Corner, thank you, sorry. But apart from that, the rest of the lower road is completely uncyclable. And in particular, going up Jenkins Hill on a bike, I'm reasonably fit, but trying to get that bike in poor weather or as it was getting dark on a bike with that busy road, that is a death trap and it's an accident waiting to happen. So I really think the KCC needs to start showing the people of Sheppey a bit more respect and actually try and help us out a little bit. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Worcester first.
Thank you, Chair. I've looked at the plan a couple of times now, and I think it shows a spectacular lack of imagination and aspiration for Sheppey and Swell, actually. For example, there was a plan voted by myself and Adrian Oliver, who is one of your officers, regarding putting in a proper car park for Swell Holt, which is one of the little stations that exist just off of the bridge. And that would serve as yet another way of drawing traffic out from our town centres and get people back on the railway, and actually would do us a favour with regards to antisocial behaviour in that area. And that is nowhere mentioned. That's very, very little investment for a good return for the community. Also, when you're talking about the road network, I'm hoping that a little bit of your input will be around communication. Road improvement, as you would call it, residents are given 3 days notice before that work started. That's entirely inappropriate. There was no public meeting held on Sheppey when huge amounts of residents were at a massive disadvantage. Some people even lost their jobs just because they had no forewarning of that work starting at all. Any sort of public engagement with that Jackson's, who is the company running it, people have to go to the site to do a drop-in. That's entirely inappropriate, especially because that site is quite dangerous at the moment. If you've driven it within the last 20 minutes, it's poorly signposted. It's an accident waiting to happen for road users who are not experienced in the area. It's just appalling. And then going back to very basic road closures, the reason why your consultation was poorly attended was because there was an emergency road closure in Sheerness Street that no local council was made aware of. So we couldn't inform our residents that the whole road was going to be down in Sheerness. And actually, that's a very easy move in just emailing us to let us know what is going on with our own road network. These problems have persisted with KCC, and really, even the quality of the stuff that you do on the roads is appalling. This evening, I've driven through Minster Village, and for the 4th time, a reoccurring pothole is there that you could hide a small civilization in, because it's gigantic, and that work is being paid for by the taxpayer on a regular basis. So I'm all for this transport plan, but realistically, this is a box-ticking exercise for KCC, and I'd expect something a lot better from a council that is taking 73 pence out of every council tax pound from these residents. To have nothing on that plan for Sheppey is disgraceful, I feel. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate about the Sheppey Light Railway Greenway. That's a really important thing, needs funding. And the other one is the promenade between Sheerness Minster. Get the Neptune steps sorted out so that you can actually cycle or wheel a buggy or somebody in a wheelchair can go along the promenade, which at the moment is impossible.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
I think it's great we're talking about Sheerness and what to do in Sheerness and Minster and everything. One thing where I'm really severely missing, and the fact that it's even missed off the map of buying information sort of block, is Sheppey East. You cannot get here if they close Jenkins Hill. There is no other emergency road. You're closing Jenkins Hill for roadworks this weekend for 3 evenings, and there is no other alternative route. It even states that on your signs, and do what's best for people to get to and from. Lansdowne is meant to be a tourist area as well as a residential area, but there is no, you can't get a bus on a Sunday, you can't get a bus after 6 o'clock. None of that is written in your transport plan, and the fact that the whole of Sheppey East on your map is covered by one of your blocks shows you really how much Sheppey East gets thought of. I know you're saying that Sheerness doesn't get thought of, but Sheppey East really doesn't get thought of.
Thank you. Councillor Whiting online.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Can I start, if I may, just by thanking Joe Ratcliffe for coming along with my invitation tonight. I thought it was important that the residents of Sheppey got to hear what the consultation was all about. I think there are some things missing. We've heard some good speeches from people in respect of the light railway greenway thing, and I think that's a project that we really all need to back and consultation responses would be very welcome there. I do think the plan is lacking some obvious ones. For example, the return of direct services from Sheerness to Greenborough through to London, and also this better use of swale points, which I think would be very useful.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Whiting.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I say I just welcome the opportunity to get some responses in, but there are some things missing. The lower road being mentioned, and certainly we need to get something sorted there to make it safe for those who want to walk or cycle the east of the island to the west of the island. I'll leave it there, Chairman, but thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. There's no further comments. We'll move on. Thanks for coming, Mr. Radcliffe. I'll see you at Sissyville Library for the next consultation event. Next up, we have agenda item 6. Thank you, which is child centre policing. I'd like to introduce Laura Day from Kent Police, who will be giving the presentation on child centre policing. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Am I right standing here? Thank you. So my name is Laura Day, and I'm a police officer based at Sittingbourne Police Station, and I currently work on the child centre policing team there. Thank you for having me this evening. We're quite a new team to Swell, so I've been asked to just come along this evening and give you a bit of an overview of what the team's all about, who's on the team, and what kind of work we're doing at the moment. This isn't my PowerPoint, and I've never delivered it before, and it is very wordy, so I will skim over it and try and cover most of what we kind of want to know anyway, hopefully. Okay, awesome, thank you. Working, hold on. So this is the Kent Police Control Strategy at the moment, which is put in place by Mr. Smith, our Chief Officer. Child centre policing is at the very centre of it at the moment, which is just an example of how important Kent Police have realised that child centre policing actually is, and now that they are putting some funding into it and creating these specific teams. So back in 2023, it was decided to remodel neighbourhood policing for Kent Police. That has now all taken place, and we were part of that model.
So previously you would have had PCSOs as your kind of medical officers that would have been seen in the wards patrolling. And they have now gone as part of this remodelling, and they have put PCs back onto those roles. So all wards have now got a police officer as your beat officer. Those PCSOs we still have, and they are now part of what is a neighbourhood task force. So they work with a group of PCs and PCSOs, and they're used as a bit of a drop and put down where we need them. So, for example, if there was a particular issue in, let's say, Sheerness High Street, with some antisocial behaviour and it was repeated, we can pick up and put that team there for however many shifts we need to try and sort of flood the area with a police presence. So that's kind of what their role is now. And then we have child-centred policing, and then our beat officers. Getting through. So this is the setup. So we come under the Prevention Hub, which is part of our community policing. So you've got the child-centred policing, the neighbourhood task force, which I just mentioned. You've now got the beat PCs, which cover your wards, and then the rural task force, which obviously cover the more rural areas and deal with all sort of farm tractor thefts, poaching, those kind of offences. So this is where we come in. So we're working in the schools, we're doing youth intervention, youth resolutions, problem solving and family support. These are the main principles of the child-centred policing. So we've got the 3 E's, which are our early intervention, our engagement and our enforcement. We run something at the moment called child support plans. So when we identify a child or young person that is particularly vulnerable to exploitation, becoming criminally involved with gangs or local antisocial behaviour, we can now flag them up to a monthly panel that is held. If they feel that they kind of meet all the criteria, we can put them onto a child support plan. That means that we would then start to intervene with that child and put in as much kind of diversion activity as we can to stop them becoming criminally active. So we're trying to stop those children from becoming criminals and getting criminal records, which can impact the rest of their life moving forward, basically. We are also doing engagement. So a lot of my role at the moment is going into the schools and just trying to get myself known so the children know who I am. We used to have, I imagine for most of you in here, remember having police officers visit schools. That hasn't been happening for a long time. We haven't had proper schools officers. We had them very briefly a few years ago, and they were gone. So part of our role at the moment is listening into all of the schools, speaking to children, letting them know who we are and that we're approachable and that they can speak to us, okay? And building those relationships, because I think Kent Police have actually realised now, finally, that the relationship between young people and the police is horrific, and it has been declining for many, many years. So part of our role is to try and build that relationship back up. And then enforcement. So we are as well part of the enforcement for young people. So any young people that are coming through the criminal justice system in Swell, we will see them at some point and we will speak to them about what their future plans are, what engagement maybe we can offer them to stop that behaviour being repeated. And so if they're receiving youth cautions, we will attend that youth cautions clinic, and we will meet them there and try and engage with them. It isn't always going to work. Some children have no interest in engaging with us whatsoever, but we will try to do that engagement. Can we go on to the next one, sorry? Next one. We've got a lot to get through tonight, so I'm going to try and skim over this. Yeah, next one, sorry. Okay, so these are some of the projects that we've got working in Swell at the moment. So we can offer street aid, we can offer it to schools, youth clubs, different scouts groups and things like that. It's a form of first aid, but it's teaching kids how they can deliver first aid in a street environment. If there is an incident and one of their friends is injured or they get injured, they can deliver that sort of life-saving initial first aid themselves. We're still doing the knife pledge. That's been going for a couple of years now, and the plan is to get every school in Kent signed up to that. And we are now rolling out to businesses. Sheppey Rugby Club have just agreed to sign up to the knife pledge, so we will be delivering that in the next few weeks. It is something that's been put in place in sort of partnership with Kent Police, the Violence Reduction Unit, and the Benkin Seller Trust. And it is all about trying to make our communities safer and get knives and weapons off the streets. The community that we go into and deliver these pledges, the schools are delivered a PowerPoint presentation about the dangers of carrying weapons, which has been created by Benkin Seller Trust. And then the whole community of the school signs up to a pledge to say things like we will not carry weapons. If we know someone is carrying a weapon, we will report it. If we have a weapon, we will dispose of it responsibly. It's all those kind of things, and we can tailor it to suit the environment that we're delivering the pledge in. So those will continue running. So we can go into the schools and deliver lots of different inputs, things like antisocial behaviour, online safety, sexual activity, road safety. We've got lots of different resources that we've been given and lots of different training that we can give us, that we can go into primaries and secondaries. We will support schools with the delivering of national campaigns as well. We can deliver sextortion education. We have got a Penn Homes programme that hasn't come to Swell yet. So Swell has got a roadshow coming in October. So every year 9 year in secondary schools has been offered a roadshow next month in October. Most of the schools are signed up. I think there's 2 or 3 that didn't, but they will be delivered. It's a whole day roadshow where we've got lots of different partners coming in to speak to them about lots of different safety elements. Okay, so hopefully it'll give them some really good support and a little bit of knowledge to help them keep safe themselves when they're out about the streets. And then we hold the meetings every month that I mentioned about the child support panel meetings. Yeah, sorry. So this is your Swell team. So this is myself, today. We've got 1 sergeant at the moment and 3 officers. We should be getting 1 more officer and then 2 PCSOs eventually. So we all have our own areas to cover. So myself, I cover the whole of GNS, the whole of Sheppey, every single school on the island and the college. And then I also cover a few schools on sort of this side of Sittingbourne as well. So 8249 and the village schools on this side. PC Matt Only covers Central Sittingbourne and PC Tyler covers Faversham. We can all be contacted directly, or there is a central mailbox that we can go into as well. So all of the schools have our contact details now. So we can also just be on hand for safeguarding advice if the schools need it. We're kind of a first port of call for that as well. That's it. I think a massive part of it for me is the child-centred policing teams were a team that you had to apply to be part of. Policing in general does have a tendency, when there's a space in our kind of roles, to just push people into those spaces and fill them with people that don't necessarily want to be in that department. Everyone in the child-centred policing teams interviewed and applied for these roles to be in them, which I think is really important when you're working with children. You need to be people that are actually passionate about it and want to make a difference for children, which is why we do still have a PC vacancy, because someone suitable hasn't applied yet. So that will be filled, but when the right person kind of comes along. That's it. It was a very whistle-stop tour of it. Do you have any questions? Please be kind. Kinder than the roads. Thank you.
Just what's the difference between the schools teams and you guys?
Okay, so we did have school teams with Kent Police 2 years ago. I was a schools officer for the island, actually. We were very short-lived, unfortunately. At the time, we were meant to just be in schools, but we had mostly a few named secondary schools, and primary schools were kind of as and when they needed us. The idea of the child-centred policing role that is actually we encompass the whole community. So we would go out to youth clubs and youth centres. We will work in primary schools and colleges as well. They weren't covered before. And it's generally young people in the whole community, because we've got a lot of kids that aren't even in education still. So we were not hitting them at all, schools officers. They were never getting seen. But we will be going out to care homes. We'll go out to rural alternative provisions as well, with those children that aren't in mainstream education anymore. We will go and see those sort of places now as well, which weren't really part of the schools team plan.
Thank you. Lady there.
I don't know the lead time this makes the room. We've got a group / mini gang of about 9 kids. They cause probably 85% of the issues all year round. And I'm talking air rifles and private farms. I'm talking skin shopping animals. I'm talking broken people's windows, damage to public toilets, like you name it, they're involved. They know they do it, they know they can get away with it. They've been checking with cars on their bikes, on the main one of them had gone to watch. And nothing seems to be done. I personally have reported them at least 10 times between my workplace and my home in the last 12 months. And they just get a little bit older every year and keep on going. So how can that be used?
So the best thing to report that to would be your local beat officers, which you can find on the Kent Police website and check in your postcode and tell you sort of your local neighbourhood. Do you know who yours is?
That would be other problem, yeah.
Okay, so generally for stuff that's out in the community, it goes to those beach officers first, sort of your local beach officers. If it's youth related, they can then partner up with us and we can kind of do it as a sort of double-headed source thing. We do a lot more of work in the schools at the moment, just to try and establish kind of one presence, because they know who we are. But yeah, those initial incidences out in the street for antisocial behaviour would be going to the local beach officers first for them to tackle. So by all means, send it in. If you aren't getting a response, send it to me. Brian's email's on there, and I can chase them. We all work in the same office, so I'll probably sat next to them some days, so I can chase it up with them.
Yeah, because some of them, what seems to happen, I've been here almost 10 years, that there's another one, the old time moment is about 14, and then I think they're down to about 7.
Yeah.
And then each year they just seem to move up, get some more young ones, move up, get some more young ones.
Yeah.
You would think an airway for parents from 5 lands
Yes.
would be enough to get something done.
Yeah, it's really difficult, and that would then start touching on sort of our rural task force as well. They can tend to come and sort of work on that as well, that's a big issue. It's the schools team as well was focused on secondary schools, and they didn't particularly want us in the primary schools. I personally feel that we should be in the primary schools a lot more, and as the child centre police officers, we are at the moment. Because a lot of time I think these children get to secondary school age and you've almost already lost them. They've had all of those 11 years, potentially with a bad influence at home, not enough support in the community, and they've already got a horrendous attitude to police. They've got no interest in working with us at all.
We've got to go and sensitive people. If you try to speak to them, say, please don't cycle in the middle of the road on a dark night, and you get verbally abused, you can't touch a younger minor, off, you name it, you get it. And then, like, if I turn around and punch on them, because I've been threatened to be hit by one of them, I'd get arrested. So why are they not arrested for physically abusing an adult? It's like kind of unreal.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So if what the officer suggested fails, you can raise a community trigger through the community safety partnership or community safety unit. It's on our website, it's on Slough Council's website. Just type in Slough Council community trigger. So I suggest we go down these routes first, and then if there's no improvement within a month, then if you've got, you need these 3 crime records numbers. Obviously, you said that you've got 10. So I suggest giving it a month, and then and feel free to copy me in on anything.
Okay.
Councillor Nunley.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of when you start with an early intervention for someone that gets identified,
Yeah.
I understand that they're largely going to be identified, I assume, by the school that they attend or
Yeah.
through their engagement with the police. I know it hasn't been going very long, but so far, how successful has it been in terms of actually capturing the right people? Because I know that you said earlier, a lot of the time, the people that really, and it happens all the time in society, and I'm glad that this has happened, because not having police officers going into primary schools and stuff has clearly had an impact. But how successful is it going so far?
So we started in May as well. I think we've had about 10 children put onto these child support plans now. They are voluntary. So these plans aren't put in place because someone's been given a conviction. These plans are put in place hopefully a long time before that happens. We're identifying them early. But it is voluntary. The parents have to agree to it as well as the child. So some of them we have never made any progress with, despite scheduling meetings and trying to engage with that child. Some of them just aren't interested. We've had a couple of really great success stories so far, particularly one in Sittingbourne, a young child that was getting very mixed up in selling drugs, dealing drugs, and being exploited by an older gang member. He is now completely out of that situation, and we've managed to get lots of different funding. We're trying to get him back into education. So we have had some success stories, but it is an uphill battle because a lot of these kids haven't had anyone trying to improve their life for some time. So yeah, it is a child centre policing team aren't going to change anything overnight. It's going to take, I imagine, years before we get a real noticeable change in the community, which I hope will happen.
Thank you.
Councillor No.
Do you get involved in places like college and that already have a safeguarding team, but may still need additional, perhaps somebody coming in for a one-time thing, like we were mentioning, the education programs and that?
Yeah, just said college, sorry.
Yeah.
College, yeah. So I cover increase in Sheppey College as well. So I went to them before the summer holidays. I went to their freshers fair a couple of weeks ago, and I'm back in the week after next for another drop-in. So the plan is that you will see us in the secondary school once a month to run a surgery as a minimum, which is a drop-in for children and staff to come and raise issues. I will be running the same at the college. So last I was the freshers there, but we are running a ball event there in the next couple of months, so violence against women and girls. So female students to come and raise any concerns they've got. So yeah, there'll be lots of different inputs, but the college is something that I do cover, so I'm doing them up.
I can have a quick chat with you after.
Of course you can. I won't be staying till the end, so not after my thing, but email me, please, and we can arrange things.
Can you put the email back up there?
I would be going to email afterwards, sorry, it's just I've taken that answer down now.
Nikki, did you want a question?
Yeah, and we're talking about intervention, you installed to the parents and the children. Why is that? Why is it not mandatory?
It's because it's not as a result of them getting criminal conviction. So if it is a criminal conviction, we can put things in place. If they're getting like a youth portion, for example, we can put parts to that and make it a conditional portion that they have to do certain things, like partake in a course or a training package and things like that. Because these people are being convicted of a crime, the ones that are going onto these plans, they're vulnerable people that we're trying to help. And there is no point. We can't physically force them to do these interventions. And I think if we did try and force them to do it, they would just shut down. They're vulnerable young people in our community, these ones. And I think it needs to be a gentle approach. And yeah, we're there as a support mechanism, not as a kind of word. We're there to support them, not enforce something with them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Stubb.
Two questions. I'm very concerned about the centre of the island. I'm assuming Warden Bay and East Church have their own lead officers, do they?
I would have to double check because we've just had an influx in the officers in Sheppey. It was just PC Annie Police on her own for quite a long time. We have had a couple of new officers now start on the island, but I don't know their exact dates, so I would have to double check for you.
I will just say that officer was a godsend to this island. So yeah, even though we've got more officers, her individual input was like a breath of fresh air here. And I've also got to ask, on that basis, down this end of the island, we don't have a police station. I would really like to know and be reassured that Kent Police are reaching out to, for instance, this building and potentially other buildings where police officers can stay for an amount of time and do some of their admin work. So they are spending days in their wards, rather than, for instance, popping out from shores, doing a quick tour of the ward and then going, because I think residents really want to feel that their beat officers are here for the duration, so that actually they're part of the community. The other thing that I'd like to ask is very sheer specific, sorry. Crime Commissioner did a parachuting visit, and yet again, no councillors knew about that visit. We've been asking for a public meeting with the Crime Commissioner to explain the use and strategy here for years, and we've asked at various levels. So I've asked at the ASB conference, and my colleague Councillor Palmer has asked on various meetings that he's attended. Sheerness has two PSPO areas operating. We are seeing an extremely high level of child grooming. So children who, for instance, do not go to school on an average high level of attendance from them, absolutely. We've got CCTV, but we are not seeing the follow-up with, for instance, these adults picking up groups of children, buying them the odd packet of cigarettes, buying them the odd bottle of cider or whatever. We know it's going on. Our beat officers have just picked up somebody like a shop selling fake vapes and things like that. So we know that that is aimed towards children. So I would really like to know what Inspector Foster is going to do about bringing that meeting here, and a promise that no more visits will happen to this island without the residents knowing about them and being able to have input and conversation with their policing leaders. Pass that back up.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Mark Foster is obviously my supervisor as well, so I will pass that feedback back. That's just that. And with regards to the beat officers, They can do that, so I will speak to them about that. We've all got laptops and work mobiles now, so we can hotspot off our mobile phones and use our laptops without Wi-Fi and things as well. So I will suggest that to them as well.
When you say a beat cop, you actually mean walking around?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen one. Never. And I only live down the road here.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm quite appalled with the police. I had my very expensive garden furniture stolen last year. Not even a phone call from the police, not even a crime number. I've got a reference number. You know, I pay a lot of rates in a year and a lot to the police as well. And we get no service. I've never ever seen a beat cop down here.
I know it's
I've
something
never
that has,
seen, the other thing, I know you're nothing to do with it, but we've never seen a speed trap down here. No, the speed on this road is getting worse and worse every year. Now, we've had numerous accidents last year along here where the roads have been shut, but we can't get off or on the island. And something's got to be done soon, especially these trucks that are coming down at the moment. These, it's a holiday centre down there. For the last 5 weeks, we've had tipper trucks going along this lower road here, especially through Bayview where I live. Coming in, it's not too bad because they're fully loaded, but coming out, they're doing well over 15, 16 miles an hour, and they bounce because they're empty, and you get the noise. I know it's that new you and something, but I just get steam off. That's what I came down here for. But something's got to be done sooner or later because we just get forgotten about down this part of the island. You know, the whole island gets forgotten about, but this is worse than Sheerness. So nothing ever done. If you go to Minster, they've got a static camera up near the water tower, and every now and again they put a mobile one in front of it. Why?
what, a speed camera?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's not
Why
that
can't
to
that come
us.
down to Bayview in the lane-by? They would make a fortune. In an hour, they will pay for a week's wages, I tell you, because of the speed of the traffic. But why do they have to? We don't get any, and they do too. But it's a question I'd like to answer to the government.
I don't know if that camera may be checking something that's up.
Sorry, you can actually request that your beat officer intends with the mobile speed cameras. And actually, if that can be done through the parish council, that's usually very effective.
Believe me, I've only started coming back down here, but years ago, I tried everything. I got shifted, I had the MP down here, I had the chief inspector down here, and everybody goes, oh, this is nothing to do with me, you need to go to somebody else in the council, go to them, and they said, it's nothing to do with us, it's a free. And all I do is go, and I just go something here.
Well, the beat officers are qualified to draw out the speed.
Okay, there are two ward councillors here, I'm sure they've heard. No, that's fine, I'm sure they've heard and they'll speak to it. In fact, I'm going to bring in Councillor Moore just on that issue.
Yeah, I completely understand, I know what you're saying, we have said it, for years and years before I became councillor, that, and the speed they don't pass the stop, but it, they said there's been no accidents. Because there's no accident reported, and I do say, you know, what has a child got to be killed coming out of the school before anything takes place along this road? There's accidents left, right, and centre, down Gentleman's Hill and that. And again, it leads back to the same standard of the sort of road networks. If you've had an accident, you can't get an ambulance down there for a long way, isn't it? Because the road's closed, so an ambulance can't get to lays down or walking by anything. And also, if you don't, and even myself as councillor, as ward councillor, and I know the parish council as well, we don't know who our beat officer is, we don't ever see, I live in Wimbledon, and you never see anyone.
I think, as I was saying to Councillor Worcester, it has been, Alan Harness on her own for a very long time, so she has been trying to cover, the whole island. We have had an influx, I think there is 3 new officers now on the Isle of Sheppey, but I will try and find out exactly what areas they have been tasked.
Yeah.
And I'll feed that back to yourself.
If you feed back to me, I'll circulate.
I have asked Deb from the CSU to send, excuse me, one meeting please. I have asked Deb from the CSU to send out to all councillors a list of all the PCs for area and their contact numbers. So once, I think there's some new officers coming, once that's in place, the list will be out. We've got 2 more speakers.
Just very briefly, in relation to, there was a post, a police post, in Laysdale, I don't know if it's still there, the little building near the toilets. Yeah. Is that usable?
No, it's a community facility now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, just in point the fact that that the committee that run that community centre, because I'm on responsibility for it, have always said when they bought it off Kent Police that they are more than welcome to use it as a base still. So there was no, when it was bought off of Kent Police, it was always said that they could use it still as a base for their officers to use.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Watson mentioned that as part of my role, I've written to the Police and Crime Commissioner on 3 occasions. I noticed on their probably time right away. I wrote on the 30th of July asking for a public meeting with people on the Isle of Sheppey. I wrote again on the 15th of August, and I wrote a third letter sending all the copies of the emails that I previously sent on the 15th of September last Sunday. I have not had a response. So both as a councillor who's written to the Police and Crime Commissioner, asking him to come and speak to the people of Sheppey about their concerns about policing. I am absolutely disgusted at the lack of response. End of quote. Thank you.
Probably be about in April on the island come election time. My questions are, I don't think once a month in the schools is enough.
Yes, that is the minimum.
That's the minimum.
Yeah.
But obviously once a week would might be much more welcome than the secondary schools.
Yeah, the numbers, so I cover 21 primary schools, 4 secondary schools and a college. So getting to them once a week is just impossible. When we've got a few more numbers, that will obviously be a little bit easier. But yeah, the once a month secondary schools is our minimum. We will try and get in there. And if there's a specific incident, then obviously we will be going in for that.
You mentioned early intervention. We're going to come on to seashells in a little while. Kent Police know how important early intervention is. We need KCC to understand that. When the schools teams that we had previously, they were dragged away to the call centre and the schools were abandoned. Is there any risk of the Chief Constable doing that again?
I couldn't tell you. I was one of the schools officers, so all of my colleagues were dragged off to the force control room. I luckily, might say, was on maternity leave then, so I kind of got protected. But it's the nature of our job, really. There was an emergency situation in the force control room where there were not enough people to answer 999 calls. That obviously has to take priority. So as frustrating as it was for us as schools officers, because we had just started building up those relationships with the schools, to then be pulled away with 24 hours notice. It was very frustrating for us, and I know it was very, very frustrating for the schools and the students that we'd already started sort of building those relationships with. I would hope having it in the middle of the force control sort of strategy would mean that we're a little bit more safe this time, but it's probably as good as mine.
I know the 2 new secondary schools have only been operating for a few weeks, but how are relations with them?
Really good. So I met with the heads of both Lee and EKC before the summer. And I've got dates to go in this month to go and have meetings with them. I know Esther's in the work still, it's been delayed the opening for the alternative provision, but I've had meetings with the head there as well, and so she's keeping me up to date with hopefully when they will be opening. So yeah, I was Oasis's schools officer previously, and so I am very keen to get back into the island schools. So far it's been good.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Whiting.
Yeah, a very quick one, Chairman, and you prompted me to say it. It was about the seashells. I just wondered from the police, will they be putting in a response to the consultation about seashells? And if they are, perhaps the representative there could indicate their support for the centre, as you alluded. Thank you.
I didn't catch the.
Are you putting in consultation consultation procedure?
I don't know.
Is there any chance you could take that back?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. And I'm sure we'll see you again.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
So next up, we move on to agenda item 7, which is the Shingle Bank. Parliament Chair of the Community and Leisure Committee is going to give us an update on this issue.
Wrong one. Apologies, I'm having a bit, so many presentations.
I mean, the chair mentioned that it's an update. Well, I can't give an update because there's been no changes. So at the moment, you're allowed to park on the shingle restriction. I can't update because there is no update. However, there has been representations made to the council that some people are saying there should be charges, some people say there shouldn't be charges. So what we're looking at is what are the options? What do the local people think is a suitable solution for parking or caravans on the shingle bank? I accept that there are up and down the country, not quite there it is, up and down the country, many people enjoy going away and staying overnight in such 2 or 3 areas, they want to go for a day or two and then move on. And there's 2 or 3 websites, and I actually own a caravan and do go about it. So, you know, what is the solution? So look, oh, it's not working.
It's not working.
Next one.
That's the issues tonight.
So look, question is to charge or not to charge? That's the question. That's the basic, simple thing. But nothing will change until there's been a full public consultation. So it's great that people are here tonight and there's been a petition handed in already. It's great, but the main opportunity you will have is A, to engage with your local parish and ward councillors, and B, when it goes out, or if it goes out for consultation, to make sure that you make your voice heard at that time. And the council will publish the consultation in the normal way. We'll probably send it round to the parish and councils and hopefully the ward councillors. And it's up to the ward council and parish councils to try to get it out to as many people as they can. Now, this is an article, Kent Online, 8th of May 2024. Residents call for fees at Shingle Bank Beach in Minster to stop it becoming a squatter camp. So that was in the local Kent Today Online. You can look at it, you can see it on there, whether that's the correct statement. I would never criticise the media, particularly with John sitting there. Next one, please. The main issue with the camper van and parking in Swale, it is mainly in 2 areas, really, Shingle Bank, Shell Nest, and it's creeping onto Barton and onto Barton's Point. So if we get the next one, well, as I see it, not the council's policy at the moment, it's just, I feel there's an issue, that it's being raised with the council, and I think we need to look at it. A decision that needs to be made out in the open with people's feedback so the council can make a fully informed decision based on the input from those that affect the local residents of Sheppey.
Can I just interrupt there?
Yeah, go on.
Just quickly, I don't know the one in Minster, but the one down here, there's no sense in making people pay if you don't enforce what you've already got there. And that is caravans and caravans going over 3 confines that then can't come in. And it says no overnight stays. You go down there and all overnight. So whatever you do, you've got to enforce it. There's no good making rules without enforcing them.
I'll come on to that point in a minute. What we'll do, I should have said at the beginning, we'll take all the questions at the end through the chair, if that's all right. As I see it, there's 5 possible outcomes. Again, don't know what I think. You might have other and better solutions. All right? These aren't what's going to happen or what may happen. It's just to put the idea of some different ways of looking at things in people's minds. So, first option would be keep the parking as it is now. Next one. Allow parking of camper van which are constructed with their own internal toilet free between 10 a.m. p.m. 10 p.m. But however, for night charging could be a charge. Well, it could be 7 o'clock, could be whatever people feel might be appropriate. And you're right, absolutely pointless putting something in if it's not going to be enforced. Next one is very similar. Next one is very similar. You can allow parking, but it might be for 48 hours because I accept that might be people who just want a quiet weekend sitting on the beach, 48 hours, and they come away. But there was a restriction to the return, so they can't. But people might say, well, we prefer to 72 hours. If that's what people put in and want, then there is that option, or could be, depending on what the results are. An option 4, allow overnight parking of caravans which are constructed of their own, for a night. So it could be you could stay there all year, but you could pay 5, 10, 20, whatever is determined. And it's not going to be determined by me. The rate would be set, if it's approved at any stage, through the council at the budget, following some sort of consultation where people can have their input. Fifth option is totally ban overnight parking.
That's already there.
And that comes back to your question, if you're going to do that, how are you going to enforce it and will it be enforced? I mean, it could be a 6th option. Completely shut the thing down and barricade it so no one can get on there. That seems a bit draconian and stupid, but you never know what decisions might come out. There's all sorts of options that are on the table or could be on the table. Right, basically this would be decided by the Community and Leisure Committee, depending on the outcome of charges if applicable, depending on the outcome of the meeting, of the decision. Any charges will be decided at full council during the budget. Or if it's midway through a year, it might get another committee. But there will be a consultation. Well, there may not be, because if there's such a strong feeling that it should stay as it is, there might not even need to be a consultation. If we go to community committee, they will look at things and say, well, let's put it out for consultation. Let's give people the opportunity to speak. Let's give people the opportunity to put their thoughts on the table. Because I put mine, I put 5. People might have a better solution. Sometimes in council you get blind and blinkered, whereas someone in the community may come out and do a far better solution. The next one, please. There will, before any changes, as I said, there will be a public consultation. People will be able to put their views in. So, and it's hard for a council, if you've got 2,000 people who say put charging in place and 500 say no charging, you can see how things might shape up. The problem is if you get 1,500 one way and 1,500 the other, it's a bit of a balance and it might be decided, well, let's not change it. You just don't know until all the information's in and we've got to publish that information and say, these are the suggestions and this is what people are saying. And then you can see that the council, the community committee are making a decision based on the information provided and the representations that people make either through petition or filling in on consultations or whatever. I think that's the last one. Have I missed anything?
We'll find
Yeah.
out.
Take questions by the chair, if that's all right.
Right, first up, I have registered to speak. Full and Oak, you have 3 minutes.
Dear members of the committee, I'd like to point out that I believe the council is looking at the medical education and missing the bigger picture, which is financial consequences to the already deteriorating island. As you know, half of the town is already empty. Businesses have closed down. And as a person being in this business myself, I know there is certain footfall. Seeing all these footfalls in the shop does not mean they are successful in trading. They need that little extra footfall to keep up, their heads above the water. In this current climate, economical climate, it is very difficult. Most of these businesses are paid out of their pocket to keep their heads above the water. So if you did close this bank down, there are around 60, 70 one-to-one caravans. Caravans only probably 10% of the whole. These people, on average, contribute around £40,000 per month to the economy of this town. That's from my just humble calculations. That's about £500,000 per annum where these people spend on the island. From the presentation, I get the feeling that the council just wants to make money out of this place. All they have to do is look at the ship car. You're not making a single penny there. You have pushed every single car on the main street. I lost my car there. My car's outside. You're more than welcome to have a look at it. It will be my life next time because in the morning rush, afternoon rush, you will see that no one can squeeze through that without either getting hurt or losing a property. Same will happen if you move them from here onto the main road. To an American, that stretch of road is an alleyway. You get transportation of, business again, they're good. All these trucks, I can't imagine trying to get through from this part of the island by not having any issues. The traffic is slowed down already, just by closing the ship car park. Same will happen here. These people contribute. As I said, if this contingency of customers, these extra customers were lost by the town, most shops will close doors. I'm assuming the council is making money from business rates. You will have less income coming through that channel too. According to council or some of the residents, most people living on the bank could be travellers due to the fact they've got caravans. Well, in that case, the whole island is a traveller because everyone in penthouse has a caravan in front of their house.
Thank you, that's 3 minutes.
Who's going to be cleaning the beaches? Everyone that on that Shields bank is cleaning the beaches. If you go to that stretch of the beach, you will see it's so clean. If you went to where the player one is, that stretch of it, there's plastic that's been there for years.
Okay, thank you very much.
People act as a lifeguard, people act as a firefighter.
Thank you, you've had your 3 minutes. Okay.
They all their comments that need to be taken into account. What is the knock-on effect of doing something?
Council will have to take up community speech.
You've had your time, so can you sit down, please? Anything else you want to say, you can go into consultation. Nikki, you're next.
Obviously, from Sheppey Action Department. One question, and one is of one of our residents, is that if a fee is put on to the Sheppey Bank, will you then reconsider putting a fee back at the Little Oyster car park? And the second question is the Sheppey Bank a public rights of way?
Your second question, I don't know. If we can find out, we can try and let people put it into the minutes, but I don't know. Your first question, the Little Oyster car park, I can't guarantee what will happen in the future, but I know, whilst I'm the chair of the community committee, it is very unlikely to come back on an agenda, even if there is chance parking at the legal bank.
Okay, in answer to that, the first question, the fact that your chair and vice chair of this committee were ones that proposed we don't charge at Queen Maroons at the Little Oyster, I think it's very unlikely, and it was a near unanimous decision that we don't charge them. No, that's fine. No, that's fine. Right, next up on my list, I have Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I shall obviously respond when the consultation comes out, but I think we need to remember or think about, if we didn't already know, that Shingle Bank is part of the sea defences. It isn't a van park. It is part of the sea defences. And if you look at it, it's already getting compacted. Now, I was not about in 1953, probably some people in this room were. If it gets breached, that is going to run all the way down into Sheerness and those same places that were flooded in 53 and indeed 78, 79 will get flooded again. There is a huge cost to flooding. So I think people need to be aware of what the purpose of that shingle bank is for. It is to stop people getting flooded. And if you have ever been flooded, and I know there are people, you know, up and down the country every other year because a river comes over its banks, it is awful. It is a nightmare, and some people never get over it. And I don't want that to happen to the residents in Sheerness that I look after. So please be aware when you're putting your two pence in, that is a flood defence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Peter Knapp.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter MacDonald as well. Got two issues actually. One, ship on shore car park. Yes, it had to be re-tarmacked, frankly. It was disgraceful. Usual thing for a Sheppey, nobody repaired anything. It was just left. There were holes in it. It would have been, I don't know how on earth this guy wouldn't get sued by somebody falling over in there. But anyway, they had to be tarmacked. I suggested that they ought to have a sensible residence charge for car parking, and that hasn't actually happened. With regard to the shingle bank, I'm very disappointed that it's taken so long, frankly. I mean, this issue has been raised for, I should think, at least 12 months. And my mother certainly was an elected member of when we had a local council, which was Sheppey Rural District Council, which was most of the island. There was but most of the island was Sheppey Rural. My mother served on that. And at that time, people were charged for parking there. And they just had an old chap used to go along with the bag and collect a sensible rate. And I don't see any reason at all why they don't. Yeah, they might spend some money, but one can't actually go to that. But they really don't make any contribution. And even with toilets and that, what do? When the tide's in, or even when the tide's out, they just empty them out onto the beach. Which is rubbish. No, it's been absolutely rubbish. Let me finish. I've been here a lot longer than you. Rubbish. Well, that's what you said. It is rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. You might not do it, but some do. That's the choice.
Right, thank you. We're going to move on. Yeah. Nicola?
Yes, so that's sort of part of my question, but I didn't have to remember mention in the forum. And so I would like to reiterate why I've provided the Action Beach Cafe. I would just like to say that there are very responsible mobile home users down there who would never think in a million years of disposing their waste. But there was one group in the summer who were taking up 16 car parks. They were there for over 2 months, and they were because they sort of do it every day. But one suggestion I have is Neptune Beach Cafe is a tenant of Swell. Why don't we invest in sorting the cesspit out down there? The Barton's Point can have £140,000 shower and toilet block. Why can't we have one at this centre? And perhaps if that was a facility with waste disposal, then the issue of the stereotypical, oh yeah, they all do their waste and see. Some of them do, I've seen them do it, but the caring that people don't. It's and it's always going to have a very different one to go up for everyone else. If there was a facility for waste disposal, water loading, and a shower, maybe that would facilitate tourism of the Centre Island.
That's a good point to take away. I think it's going to be made on that.
No, definitely.
And it's, you're right. Sometimes it's the minority that tar everything.
And sometimes actually people look at flight service and report the flight service and problem. So there is a benefit. One of the negativities of some of the action, but some do take and they're in the same parking rates for 3 weeks. So.
Gentleman behind you's next, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up a couple of points. One, what is the main issue? Is it because the vehicles are there, or is it because they're there for plans? What is the main issue?
Well, I think the main issue, as the lady said, some waste has been done. The other issue is we've had complaints that people feel intimidated at times. That might be that perception that people have.
Been intimidated or they feel?
I use the term feel.
Right, so.
I've got no evidence that says it's intimidated.
Right.
And a lot of residents feel that, as it said in the news article, residents have spoken, not just to councillors, but also to the media, saying they feel it's turning more into a shanty town, a squatters camp.
Right.
So there are concerns from local residents.
Yeah.
As well as.
Well, I don't think the residents as well, so. You know, it's his first time. So, yeah, I've been listening to 88, I've had numerous businesses on the island, including the, which used to be called the Retreat. Business down there, I had Lansdowne Garage, I had Lansdowne Brick Cat Shop, so I know a lot about this area. And I'll tell you now, up Shingle Beach and Barton's Point, the rubbish, and I'm talking 95% of the rubbish, is so-called locals. When they come up on the Shingle Beach in their cars,
Yeah.
the kids in cars, they get bottles, wrappers, their beer cans, their Coke cans, and they do it openly. They do it in front of you. We walk along, they will do it in front of your face. And half the reason for them doing that is for us to get that. I spend every Monday walking around Barton's Point.
I don't disagree with you.
Picking up the rubbish. I stopped doing it the last 2 weeks because the sign went up on the cafe side, saying, oh, no, like parking stand and that. So I stopped doing it. Have you seen the mess down there? I haven't picked it up.
I don't dispute what you're saying. And I think the way rubbish is dumped by a lot of people is totally unacceptable.
Right, I've got 7 more speakers.
Some young girls did the same double entry.
I've got 7 more speakers. Okay, thank you. One meeting. Councillor Mundy, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've been contacted, I saw representatives of Cliffs on the Scarborough Council, and I've been contacted by a lot of residents. Some have come up with some quite sensible suggestions about this, saying that only charging for overnight parking would be a good thing, because if you went anywhere else in the country to a spot as beautiful as that, you'd pay through the roof to park there overnight in a camper. And I don't see why it should be any different, because it's on the Isle of Sheppey. And I'd totally take Councillor Harrison's point as well, with quite a few residents that have lived on the island for a very long time. They can remember the floods happening. They've said that is a speed offence. And if that gets impacted, that gets damaged by the constant use by not just camper vans, to be honest, it would be anything, because cars are quite heavy as well, let's remember. It's going to damage the sea defence. And if that breaks through, people are going to get flooded. And we really need to think about that. Just behind the Shingle Bank, you've got the Barton's Point.
Closed.
Pardon?
It's closed.
What's closed?
Barton's Point.
What, the coastal park?
Yeah, it's closed.
The coastal park is shut.
Yeah, it's Barton's Point. Where you can go on, it's closed.
Anyway, there's a caravan park there, and by the ship on shore, there's a caravan park, and that would have been flooded as well if that came through. I appreciate the camping may be allowed at Barton's Point, that was the point we were trying to make, but I appreciate what you're saying, yeah. But I do think that that is a speed offence, and perhaps it should remain as one, and not potentially get damaged.
Two behind you.
But we haven't been flooded on the island for 40 years. Okay, we go to the Shingle Bank. If anybody feels intimidated, I have no reason why. We're friends, we're family, we're a community. If you drove past the Shingle Bank today, you'll see one motorhome, 16 caravans. The caravans have nothing to do with the motorhomes. So wherever they are, that's not down to us. Our waste is not poured into the sea. Our waste is put into a chemical toilet and taken home with us. The same as our grey waste. We all have tanks. One motorhome parked outside, spend thousands on it. And that's what we do. We have parties up there, we drink, we have barbecues, we celebrate. I was on this island since I was 5. I'm 45. Not once have I seen this island flooded. Not at all. And to take that away from everybody for a fee, that's fine. Fee, put a fee in, but put toilets there. Like you say, you spend £150,000 on Barton's Point, they're all burnt out. Why are they burnt out? Because there's no one over there.
Well, they were saved by a camper van.
And again, I would have said, I went to Barton's Point last weekend, up Shingle Bank, and we done our own little bit, and we have gas canisters where kids are there.
just packets and packets of McDonald's, KFC, absolutely everything, but we picked it up. So we left it in a better state than we turned it. And that's the same with the sugar bank, exactly the same with the sugar bank. I've watched the chaps picking up the rubbish and what's on the floor, not picking it up. Do you know what I mean? Just chucking the black bag in, not picking the rest of it up. So we do keep it clean, and if we weren't there, that would be full of fly tippers and boy racers. Now that boy racers don't come. Or the cockle pickers, we stop the cockle pickers.
Sorry, Councillor Carr, I've got a long list to get through. I agree that caravans are one issue and camper vans.
100%, that's the difference. I mean, if you go past the shingles now, there's no one there. It's winter time. Everybody's put their motorhomes away, like everybody in their chalets. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, but if you were going to charge, then put facilities for us. I'll pay. I'm going away next week, but I'm saying I have facilities, I have a toilet, I have a shower. Do you know what I mean? And if something is put in place up there, people will pay and it'll be kept clean and tidy by the rest of the motorhoming community.
Right, I'm going to move on. Thank you. I'm going to move on. You're next.
Some of my things is from every bit that everyone said about the shingle bank. One, if there's fees incurred, is there going to be facilities? I know it might be late running when there's some consultation happening, facilities need to be put in there. Someone needs to be there to take the fee, actually look after, maintain the area, and as other people say, really it is a sea defence, but that is also looked after as a sea defence from taxpayers' money. So that's already looked at every year. I've been told twice a year at least. So if there's any issues or any damage that's been made already, then that would have been highlighted, and nothing's been highlighted at all by any damage.
I'll take your point on the facilities. I can't make any decision. It goes to the council.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that was mentioned about the next June camp. So, yeah, and taking the fees could be done electronically by an app.
Yeah, but obviously, you're at the beach, not everyone really can phone, or sometimes they're away. If they're away for the weekend, they get rid of everything, do you know what I mean? So I'm not one to carry phones around with me, I'm normally paying cash or something, so even that option has to be available to.
Well, cash might be a bit awkward.
Councillor Poynting, you're next, and I've got another 5 people after that. I've got you and I've got you.
It's just a few points I had to think about this since it's always kicking off. I've got a little poll on Sheppey Action Group, you commented on it, which was a comment. Just to see what people's views would be of what they think should happen. I've got a few options on there. The main one was that there should be a charge of play. Now, it doesn't have to be a massive amount of money, but that money needs to be reinvested back in maintenance and support and member staff to enforce those that have stayed too long, haven't paid at all, or are littering, putting their waste in the sea. Now, I understand these guys, they've got the camper vans, they've got the great water tanks, they've got black water tanks if they need, they go out, they drain, etc. There are going to be the minority that are going to spoil it for everyone else. That needs to be made sure that's clamped down. I have concerns, caravans, safety aspect, that if somebody is on hard times, and it has been mentioned in other meetings I've been to, that there is a possibility of people living on this all the time because they have nowhere to live. The safeguard means around that probably was still about around. I have concern that someone without experience of pulling a caravan, you've got one, you know that it falls in, not getting it right, left to go right. If someone goes up there with a caravan, can't turn around, they're going down the bank. Then you've got public safety issue, you've got environmental issues, the issue of vehicles might fall down that bank if it's damaged by a vehicle. And you've got to be thought about the environmental agency. They must be maintaining that level. Are they doing proper testing, or are they just walking on thinking, yeah, it's all right? Because I've walked along it, I've driven along it on my car, and it's not the smoothest in the world. But going on, not saying this is, but the intimidation side is that I've got there occasionally, to have lunch in the car on the way to or from somewhere, and we pull up the hard standing bit on the right hand side, because I don't want to have to drive down and try and find a gap between caravans, caravans, etc., because I don't want to encroach on what might, someone might think is their space. So I get that you've got a good view between really. go against that. But you're gonna have maybe a couple that say, we're not gonna stop in there, that's all my cars. And if there's a caravan that they're unattended, it needs to be off. Because they can just get left instead of becoming such a behaviour, torture. It could be, just become a dumping ground.
Just trying to think about that intimidation. It's, we had that, like, fishermen were like, and we moved to the fishermen. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna get the head, and there's an odd person that thinks it's this area, but it shouldn't be like that. I don't think it's a pretty place.
You know, no. Let's move on to people.
Yeah.
Lady there and then the gentleman next to her.
I'm a resident, Minster resident, I live opposite from the Minster Park. And I'm really grateful that they're there, because I know up there I'm disabled, I like to swim. The jet skis have nearly killed me twice, and one of these guys, she threatened me with a knife because I was swimming. I think the jet skis are a problem. The second time they really helped out, it was a fire. They put the fire out before the fire brigade got there. I'm glad that they're there, and I will be sorry to see them go.
Okay. Yeah, the gentleman.
About, comes to me. About the vehicles, you said down the side, you were worried about that. I've been up there, I've got a place, but I've also got showing laid down, so I've taken council tax on that. So if the main concern about people up there, don't pay council tax and things like that, they make money. A lot of us do. We've got properties here, and I've got property in London, so I've shown. On the point where you said about vehicles, I've only seen 2 vehicles that you pulled off beach so far, fishermen and nature, but boy racers, should I say. Fire brigade come out, ambulance. Everyone got months in a camper.
And else.
Right, and we did all go down there. Right, I was one of the measurement that put the fire out. With a couple of others was coming over to my chalet for a night out, all dressed up nice, got the smoke and still come out, but we stopped like that. Also, with lit pickers, you see them all up by the huts lit picking, personally myself, a couple of my friends do lit picks, they don't live on the island, but they camp up there with us, they like to their pit do lit picking. Right, so you see the lit picking that in, you see it down by Tesco, I think Tesco's yesterday. They were lit picking there, you never ever see lit picking on a single bank, because we keep it tidy. And the bin people will even tell you that. They're happy for us to put the extra bags of rubbish there, because we clean the whole stretch of beach. If you walk along that beach, that will clearly stretch the beach.
And just restless.
And also, what about the carbon charges? One of the ship shores were in fighting at least 6 times I've seen since there's been no vehicles in there. And just the other day, it must have been noted on your thing, that's clear carbon opposite the bank, because it was fly tips as well. You'll never see fly tips on the bank, so people are going to keep going.
Okay, final 2 speakers, Councillor Worcester and then Councillor Nolan.
I just wanted a quick point, actually, Chair. I think it's really divisive that we are using language like squatters can, and language like that doesn't exist at the council. There's a technical term for it. It's called encampment. And actually, I made moves on Sheerness Town Council because the term traveller encampment is used. And actually, encampments are not just travellers. They can be anybody. And actually, our first point should be safeguarding our welfare elements. So I think it's really got to be thought about if any consultation goes on, is that actually, and then we've heard it in this meeting already, we've managed to pit camper owners against caravan owners. It's not good enough to say, actually, we are divisive and we are segregating people. There are issues to talk about here, but it needs to be done in a not so emotional way, with the facts, with data. I agree, consultation is a really good way of doing it, but also I'd really like us to be thinking about, if we use divisive language like that, we're just excluding people and making this into an argument, when actually we need to do the best for people. We may not get bottom and be able to suit everybody's point of view, of course not, but all points of view should be considered. So I agree, consultation is the right way forward, and I'd like to see it sooner rather than later, because this was brought up at the budget last year. It's been too long.
Okay.
Just to clarify at one point, the council never used the term. It was a quote of the paper.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councillor Nolan.
Thank you. A few comments were made about, building facilities in areas where campervan, are located. I think it should be noted that one thing this island has a lot of is holiday parks. They have facilities, they have showers, they have toilets. Perhaps we should consider the fact and think about the fact that, the cheap lives are free. If people wanted facilities, they could exist.
I think that's been heard loud and clear. I want to thank everyone that's come. We've done this item to death.
Sorry, I've got to mention one point. We have
Final point.
people say about the bank collapsing away the vehicles. We have videos of 4x4s and quad bikes trying to climb the bank, which is deteriorating the bank. Nothing to do with the weight of vehicles.
Okay, I want to thank everyone that's come tonight. I'm going to finish this item now.
Mr. Chairman,
Councillor Martin, you was asked if you wanted to comment on this item and you didn't come back to us in time. I want to thank everyone for how respectful you've been. Councillor Whiting, please be quiet. Sorry, at least the public have been respectful. I'd like to thank all the public that's come tonight. We've had a good discussion. I've seen lots of notes fly around. It's good that you come and put your points across, and that will reflect in the consultation. If you want to stay for further items, you can, but thank you everyone for that.
Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the main item, in my opinion, which is the Kent County Council Seashell Family Hub consultation. I'd like to welcome Jim Duncan, who will be talking about this consultation. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, could someone shut the door for us, please? Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jim Duncan. I represent Children and Families. We're the charity that we Seashells and Sheerness. Exactly, we're created to Seashells and Sheerness. I'm going to talk to you about the consultation that Kent County Council are currently running at the moment. A consultation that we strongly disagree with. Tell you a little bit about the Seashells, first of all. So we opened in 2005, the Shore Staff Children's Centre originally. So we've been developing and tailoring services for families on the island for 20 years now. Last year, 2,000 different children from across the islands used our services. And here are a list of the range of some of the services that we deliver directly ourselves and also are hosted at Seashells. These services in particular are at risk because of KCC's current consultation. They represent about 75% of what we do from the centre. So KCC's proposal is to end the Commission Family Hub contracts with Seashells and our friends at Milmead in Margate on the 31st of March next year. And they are proposing to deliver those services themselves. And in Sheerness, they're proposing to move those services from Seashells, some of those services from Seashells and into the Sheppey Gateway. KCC's reasons for doing this are one, to achieve saving £426,000, that's across both Seashells and Milmead, and to provide what they call consistency across the family hub delivery across the council. They also say that even if they were to retain funding that Seashells and Milmead currently receive, they would have to go through the re-procurement process. So it wouldn't automatically come to us, even though we've been delivering those services for 20 years. So as I said, we've been delivering these services for 20 years. They're widely respected by KCC commissioning, who we come under. They consistently analyse, audit our services, they do deep dives. We've always had very good feedback. We've always you know, been widely respected by KCC and others who work with us. We supported KCC during the pandemic. We provided virtual offer for Kent because we planned ahead and were ready. We had a virtual children's centre offer, it was at the time, ready to go. And KCC thanked us for our outstanding work. In 2021, 2022, even though we were just one of 80 children's centres across the county, we actually accounted for 28% of the volume of children's centre work that was done at the time. So we've had a huge impact. We led the way in supporting Sheppey County Council, its Family Hub service, which is the successor to children's centres. We acted as a test site along with Milne to help them to develop an offer for the whole of the county. And again, KCC thanks us for the work that we did and said we were integral to the development of the offer for the whole of the county. We're also, as of today, in fact, still the only two Department for Education recognised family hubs within the county at the moment. So technically, although KCC has a duty to deliver this service, they're currently consulting on getting to recognise family hubs that they have. So KCC is saying that they deliver these services themselves. Just a couple of points that I wanted to make about that. Last year, 2,793 different families were seen by Family Hub services or children's centre services, as it was then, across the whole swale. Seashells saw 1,869 of them. That's 67% of the reach for the whole of the district, and we were one of 9 centres at that time. If KCC takes over these services, we would expect the level of service to fall by approximately 2/3 across the whole of swale. Because we're based on the Isle of Sheppey, Sheppey will be hit hardest, and we would expect the level of service to drop by approximately 90%. We also deliver very significant value for money for KCC as well. We looked at the data and we see that it costs Kent County Council £47 for each client that they see. It costs us just £10. If KCC were to try and maintain the level of service that we deliver to families across the Isle of Sheppey, it would cost them 1.7 million. They're only proposing to spend £700,000, so they're £1 million short. The alternative venue that KCC is proposing to deliver these services is the Sheppey Gateway in Sheerness High Street. This will only be an outreach venue, it won't become a full-fledged family hub. So the Isle of Sheppey will be left with the only dedicated family hub here in Leicester. The others will be outreach venues at the Sheppey Gateway and also at Queen Reliable, where they get that company. As I said just a moment ago, the Sheppey Gateway would only be an outreach venue, it wouldn't be a full-fledged family hub. So that means that it would only be staffed for perhaps 7 or 8 hours per week whenever they're delivering services from the gateway. Most of the time, if a family needed support and wanted to drop in somewhere, as they can at Seashells, they wouldn't find anybody available to help Sheppey Gateway with the service that KCC are proposing. Sheppey Gateway, as I'm sure you'll know, was designed principally for adult services and as a library. Seashells, of course, was designed as a family centre. There's no outside space for children at the Sheppey Gateway, something that we feel no family hub should be without. It's extremely important for child development, for their education and attainment. It should be part of every family hub, but won't be available at the Gateway. There's no dedicated free parking for families. There's poor access to the buggies beyond the ground floor. And safeguarding concerns as well about the layout. Safeguarding, as the police lady earlier was saying, is a really important aspect of child and family services. The open plan design of the Sheppey Gateway doesn't lend itself to that family group working. Other adult service users as well. We understand that some of that on occasion there have been incidents where the Sheppey Gateway have had to employ security guards to keep people at the gateway safe. We just don't feel that's a good environment for child and family services. The We don't understand how they're going to enforce a no mobile phones policy, which is something that family hubs and the children's centres should all have. It's really important to ensure that people are able to take pictures of children when they're engaged in our services and activities. We also have automatic doors which lead out into. And the final point on that that we would make is that KCC social services based within the building. It would be very off-putting for some of our most vulnerable families attending family hub services at place that have social services present. KCC's reasoning basically comes down to this being about money. They expect to save £426,000 with their proposal against a £108.8 million saving that they need to make. This is just 0.39% of the saving that they're looking for. It's not tangible. Apologies, my writing is too small for you to see that. KCC are asking the largest group of disadvantaged children in Kent to make up this shortfall, and it's only 0.39%. It'll end up costing KCC more due to the impact of the fragmentation of the services and the loss of services and the lack of preventative work that they will be able to do as a consequence of their proposal. Secondly, KCC say this is about providing consistency across the county. We have 2 commission services, they deliver 54 others in-house across the rest of Kent. Consistency will be at the expense of being responsive to local needs though. County and district approaches will be one size fits all. It will no longer be a community-based service as an outreach venue. It will significantly limit the preventative work that we're able to do for children. What this isn't about is providing services that people want and need. It's not about providing best value for money. We've looked at the numbers. It's not about utilising community assets designed to deliver these services, nor is it about protecting flagship provision that's being integral to the development of family hub services for Kent. It's not about ensuring resilience in times of emergency. It's not about giving children in Sheppey the best start in life. KCC contracts would need to be re-procured anyway, even if they did keep the funding for our services. We just don't believe that's true. We've been delivering these services for 20 years. They've asked us once to tender for them. Seashells and Milne have been subject to repeated contract extensions over this time and single tender actions because KCC has recognised repeatedly that we're uniquely placed to deliver these services. We disagree very strongly with KCC's statement on this point, and we're taking advice. Just 3 examples of misleading aspects within KCC's consultation. I've written 11 pages on this. I'm just going to give you 3 examples. On page 4 of the consultation document, it says it will be more expensive for KCC to commission than run these services itself. That's just not true when you look at the figures. We're about 80% cheaper in terms of what we can achieve for the same money. Also on page 4, it says current contracts do not reflect the full age range of ages served by the rest of the county-wide family hub model. This is just rubbish. We're still waiting for KCC to provide us with the first draft of our contract for one thing. They've delayed it repeatedly as they say they can't write the specification. They're also well aware that we've adapted our services to the wider age range a year before they launched those services, and we have this in writing for KCC. Page 9, you'll find there's a table comparing what they say are the services they fund at Seashells with the services they propose would transfer to the Sheppey Gateway. Only 6 of the 11 services that they list as Seashells would be delivered from the Sheppey Gateway. They add in 4 others, presumably to balance things up a bit, that will continue at the Gateway, and whatever the outcome of their proposal, they'll still be there. Fair comparison would either be to say these are the 11 services we fund at the Seashells, these are the 6 that you would still get in some form of the Sheppey Gateway. Or they want to add in the additional services that they run from the Sheppey Gateway that are relevant to family hubs and keep all 10 of theirs, or they should be comparing that with the 40 services that we deliver from Seashells that are relevant to the contract and to the work of family hubs. We've been taking some action to protect these services for Sheppey. The petition that we started a few weeks ago is now up to around 3,300 supporters. It was 2,000 when I sent this presentation on Monday. So it's growing very rapidly, and we would appreciate everyone's support in signing that. Consultation responses, we know that we managed to get, and KCC tell us online you've had over 600 responses to the consultation, and we expect Milne will have a similar number. So we should be, I hope, well over 1,000 responses, which I think is a really strong response for both of our centres. And actually, last year KCC had a county-wide consultation that excluded us for some reason, and they looked at plans across the whole of Kent. Well, they had less than 1,200 responses to that for the whole of the county, and I think we'll probably get a similar number just for our two centres as a testament to our work. We also held a stand with us, strong with us event on the 7th of September. There are a few faces in the room. Thank you, Chair, and others who joined us for that. That was a show of support, and we really appreciate everybody who came along. We believe 250 to 300 people joined us for that. It was a really great event and really showed the strength of the community. Just some examples of the media coverage that we've had. We're very grateful to our local media. Even the BBC came to see us early on. So just a few of the headlines that we have. We hope to generate more in the coming weeks. This is a short video taken at one of our family events 3 weeks ago. It's just 2 minutes. We spoke to some of our parents at the event and asked them their views. Unfortunately, there's no sound due to the setup. You may not be able to see, but there are subtitles there at the bottom.
We'll have it sent out to all members.
We just might work through the hour and try the sound.
It's just worth highlighting here, Julie, that's on the table of one of your events, that if this consultation goes ahead, that would be the one going to do run with it.
No, absolutely right, Tommy. I hope those 2 minutes silence for seashells were premature. The consultation is still going until this Sunday, the 22nd, so there's only 2 or 3 days left. That's the QR code. If you visit our Facebook page, you'll find links. You can respond, you can help make a difference. The consultation responses are really important. The more we get, the better our chances of having an impact on KCC's thinking. I'd like to thank everybody who's already shown their support for us, and I'd also particularly like to thank the Borough Council, who published a letter today to Roger Gold expressing their support for seashells and concern about what KCC is proposing. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. So KCC said what the timescale is for making the decision.
So I don't think anything's set in stone, but we expect this will probably go to the Education, Young People and Children Cabinet Committee on the 21st of November. That's where the decision should be made, and then from there it may go to dismissal.
Okay. Hopefully you appreciate converting here. As we've heard about deprivation tonight, I'm sure some people might have heard that Blackburn Lodge KCC agreed to close that. So it'd be nice if they save something from the island. First up, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I could talk for days, weeks about seashells as Jim Bond, but I've got two main points I think are relevant. Number one, it was on part of your presentation, Jim, you put KCC misleading. Now, yes, they are misleading, but not for what you put down. KCC are saying, well, you know, we want to shut seashells, blah, blah, blah. The gateway, you did allude to it. What the community are saying is, oh, this is why the gateway is now, because this is why the gateway is now, they weren't planning on lifting half a dozen services from seashells and putting them in the gateway, which is the sort of impression that they're giving. The gateway will be used for what they call outreach. The 6 services that they're currently paying seashells, who deliver like 40 services, but they're only paying for 6, they will be dispersed either in Lacedown. That's fine for people who live in Lacedown, but the majority of people who use these services are based around Sheerness. So, you know, we know what the travel's like because I get it, you know, people really have a problem getting down. So there is that issue. Or they will be at Queenborough. And no disrespect to the Queenborough Live, it's a lovely little place, Peter, but it is not it's not a family hub, is it? That will be another health church, or even worse. So I think that whilst, yes, highlight how inappropriate the gateway is, it was never about putting those services in, if you read it, you know, minutely. So I think we must remember that. And the other point is consistency. If KCC had ever been interested in consistency in the level of services that they provide, they would make sure that the services across the county measured up to the services that they make seashells jump through hoops for. The pittance that they pay seashells and the value added that they get in return, if it was an Ofsted, seashells would be marked as excellent, and the vast majority of the county council run ones would be marked as needs improvement. And I was on the county council when they did the review of children's centres. And you know, for 10 years, one of those children's centres, costing roughly 200 grand a year, had never seen a child. That, you know, the actual philosophy of the children's centre was actually parked in the school next door. Can you actually run a proper children's centre? But that's the sort of thing that the county council have been wasting money on. As I say, they measure and monitor seashells like it's going out of fashion, and yet their own provision, they seem to let them get away with substandard, not just poor standards, substandards. Now, the bottom line is that the children and parents, the children and families on this island have got a damn good service. It saves Kent County Council money in lots of other areas. The antisocial behaviour, domestic violence, all sorts, you know, teaching children how to behave. Because we've not got, in some areas, we've not got proper role models. And you know, you've got a child, but you're nowhere near your support network. Seychelles is that support network for children and families on this island. And some of the stories that I've heard from people that have been there with their children, me and my boyfriend are going to go back to college because we want our little one to be proud of us when she grows up. Now, the worker that told me that for Seychelles, to be very thick about. She said, if I never get another one like that, all the time I'm working here, it would have been well worth it. She was almost in tears when she told me, because that was how it lifted people up. It is a generational thing. And some of the studies that are now coming to the front, where children have gone to see to children's centres, and their parents' GCSE results are much better than children who didn't go to a children's centre. There are studies, you know, it's not just me saying it's fantastic, proper studies. And parents who have actually been so uplifted, who have gone on to get degrees. That is what this organisation in the heart of our island does for us. And we should be fighting every breath to make sure, I am, as you probably say, to make sure that this remains. And KCC, don't try and, you know, spread the jam so thinly like you do with children's centres. Family hubs, as with children's centres, are supposed to be in the areas of greatest need across this county. I will admit there are probably 2 or 3 houses in Sevenoaks that are deprived. But they need 2 family hubs for that. The whole of the Isle of Sheppey features on the national, I'm not proud of it, but we feature on the national scale. And what are you doing? You're spreading the jam so thin over here that the impact, I'm not going to say won't be worth having, but there won't be too much impact. And all the good work that has been done over the years will just be going down the pan. And I just think, I know they've got a budget problem, all councils have, but you are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is the flagship centre in the whole of Kent that has got a Kent County Council bit of a badge on it. Be proud of it and make sure that it survives and goes from strength to strength. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I can't say anymore.
Councillor Worcester.
And I just wanted to highlight 2 relevant points here. So, yeah, today I spent the majority of my day trying to defend change minds in KCC to keep back when I'm joking. But the one point of that was relevant here is that the chair of the committee herself said that as soon as you put a .gov or a .row or another publicly funded email address, costs go through the roof. Now, I can well believe that here we have an exceptional use of public-private partnership working in the correct way, because we see the value for money every day. And I was hardly disappointed when I heard that the cabinet member that was making the decision initially decided not to attend the Seychelles, but then came back and visited, or is on the cards to visit, potentially. In the consultation itself, it talks about, and this is the exact words, it talks about minor alterations to the Gateway Centre. That's disgusting. Children do not require minor amendments to the building to make it a environment for them to occupy. They need outside space. They need to be safe. Those parents need to know that those children, any activity that is deemed as safe for children is in fact safe for children. And I know that the data was there for KCC to see that when they moved the library downstairs in the same building, family rates of using that library dropped off the cliff edge. So families will not attend the Gateway to use services because they do not feel safe. It doesn't have the same environment that we require for our children, and they are our children. It doesn't matter whether you're their mum or you're their dad or you're their counsellor or school governor or whatever. They're all our kids. And if we expect these children to come and contribute to our society, then they need adult support now. And actually, you can fill in the consultation with every member of your household. I've put in one for Paul's mum, who's in Cornwall, and for Paul's dad, that is in Manchester, because it's their grandchildren that are being affected by these closures. And they are being inappropriately targeted towards Sheppey for these closures, because I can only assume that we have a smaller voice in KCC discussions, and that has to change on a long-term basis. So please believe the consultation, but please do not believe what's on the consultation when it comes to costings, because it's a load of rubbish. Minor alterations to the building, they're going to add a few printers. So how does that anyone or our children need being in cold offices that are built for adults? Of course it doesn't, it's ludicrous. Please support the consultation.
Thank you. Next up, we got Councillor MacDonald, then Councillor Noel, then Councillor Tom. And then we've got a few more after that.
Yes, I'd like to say straight away that I'm 100% shells. It seems that the county are pretty poor at managing money, frankly. If they're good as hurt how many millions in debt, their services have reduced all the time. You know, things like the ambulance service, the fire service, the police, we're all separate, we're all in county council, and now they're rated separately. So goodness knows what they do with the money. I don't think their mathematics is very good. I might be pretty simple, but it seems they seem to think they're going to save 400 grand. I can tell you that the gateway is not in very good condition. I know that from my construction experience, and I know there's 2 or 3 or a couple of loos that haven't worked for weeks, frankly, and there's no loo in there suitable for children. So, you know, they would have to spend an awful lot of money on it, so it's rubbish, frankly, and I totally agree with you. But it seems to me very simple that if it only costs £10 a person to go to Seashells, and £47 county if they don't reduce the services, we're going to be, again with Sheppey, we're going to have our services reduced by the people who are actually responsible, KCC and social services. So I think it's an absolute disgrace, quite frankly, and they need to, I can teach them a little bit of simple maths, because that's all I'm capable of, but I think you know, they need to look again. And I know they've got to save a lot of money, but understand what they do with their money. You know, so no, they're not on this, but what do they do with the rest of the money? I know highways, but they're less schools now. You know, sorry, I think I could get quite upset. But I think Seashells provide an excellent service, and I've never been there, but you know, I know the situation. I did do some teaching a long time ago, but you know, I know we are as I say, the 10 worst areas or most deprived areas in the country. Although we're very small, so of course they think we're insignificant, but they've got another thing coming, quite frankly.
Councillor, no,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just the second time tonight, I've heard my KCC that really makes no sense. The first was the walk cycle route proposed for Sheppey, which completely ignored the Sheppey Light Greenway. It feels as though whoever came up with these ideas doesn't know Sheppey at all. They haven't consulted with people who actually know what they're talking about, and it feels as if they both have these spent more than 15 minutes here. I really think they need to actually talk to the people. The presentation that you've given raised a lot of points. It sounds to me that not a lot of consultations will be needed. You said they contact who basically wanted. It just makes no sense. They need to actually really look into this and a lot further than what they have. It's just not enough. Seashells is an amazing place. They really need to keep doing what they're doing. It makes no sense whatsoever to move this into a location that just is unsuitable. It just is, it's basically a storefront. Why do they put everything up there? So yes, I really sincerely hope they look further into this and spend more time actually talking to people and actually getting the place.
Yeah, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, just a quick one. I'm from the mainland, and I know people from the mainland area that live there, so perhaps we really need, perhaps through the chair, perhaps Janet can get this out into the mainland and try and get more people to respond, because I know people have used it, perhaps that's there as well, not, but I agree with Councillor MacDonald. Again, Sheppey seems to be taking the brunt of all the cuts.
Okay, Serena next, then Councillor Poynting, then Councillor Whiten.
Sorry, I can't really. As a previous service user of Seashells, I just want to urge every person in this room and in the virtual room to fill in the petition, fill in the consultation, because when nearly 17 years ago, I found myself, Seashells was a lifeline to me. It was approaching the winter. I found myself as a single parent with a 5-week-old baby. Seashells was a warm space. It was a safe space. It enabled us to be fed. It enabled my daughter to have nappies and milk and all the provisions that you would normally have when you find yourself in crisis that you don't have. Seashells was there for us. And that's nearly 17 years ago. And they are still helping families today, making a difference. And I'm proud to say that when I see the people that worked at Seashells 17 years ago, they still remember us. That's the difference that they make to people. They remember each and every person that they help. And we've still got friends now that we made at Seashells. I have friends, so as the mum, I made friends, and my daughter, as a baby, toddler, child, made friends that she's still got now, nearly 17. And, you know, what Angela Allison said about education, my daughter's gone on to go to grammar school. She's achieved 10 GCSEs. She's currently studying 5 A levels. And without the provision that Seashells would have put in place for us as a safe space, she wouldn't be where she would be today. So I thank Seashells for all the help that they gave us, the families that they've supported in this area since 2005. And please, just give your time, 15 minutes of your time, to fill in that consultation to change someone's life.
What you said, it's going to community, building a community. That's what you're about. Councillor Poynting.
Thank you. Yeah, just sorry, like my way, that's fine. Thank you. You're welcome. My children use Seashells when they were smaller. They're 7 and 9 now. We lived in Minster at the time when I worked on taking kids down to fun days, birthday parties in there. The whole facility is fantastic. It needs to be supported. I would be inclined to ask that every member of staff, sorry, council, every parish, town and borough councillor fill in the consultation. The presentation you put on points about the actual gateway itself. We sat in Mr. Parish Council and formed our letter. And we mentioned it's on the street, open the doors to the high street, parking. You know, I said myself, 2 council park may sound a lot to a lot of people in this room. But when a mother or a father is in need of support urgently, they then got to think, oh, £2 or a phone charge up where they could just give me to Seashells Park lot, which now is behind me already now. And just get that support, get that help. So every council and every council staff member in Swale urge them to take part in it. And I noticed that obviously Mike Whiting has been present online and social media supporting Seashells. Fantastic. I do notice that certain council Booth is considered by his absence, which annoys me. Reading some of his comments and account online just to refresh my memory, and makes me feel that he's consigned himself to the fact that it probably won't exist in case these things in support of Seashells. I would be inclined to ask what his view is on that, because no one's said, I've not seen it personally on him, apart from Googling, which is now just in refresh my memory, the account online where he's just had a check for step. The likelihood is there will be a number of high-profile decisions that have to be made because we have to do it, not because we want to. And he then hopes that if there are to be redundancies, some jobs will be found elsewhere, shared through natural waste. That is not supported by this situation inside faces islanders and off the island. As a community, I think so. Everyone, about 100 families for this consultation. All the Swale Council, the Parish Council in Wales, Paul Dunning, where he's the Queen was sharing yesterday, everyone just smash over and give that thing.
Which of our parishes have mostly taken up the opportunity to send in an individual letter in support. If anybody's got in contact with East Church Warden, raise them parish councils. If they get in touch with Liverpool, PMS or people, they'll share their letters, and then it will look like all the parishes agree together as a parish and town response. That's what KCC need to know, is it's a big fat no, but a big fat.
Minster and Swales letters are both public, so the parish councils can use them. Councillor Whiting.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Can I just start by saying that I agree with everything that Jim said during his presentation, and want to congratulate him on the work he is doing with his staff and all the supporters down at Seashells in making sure that this issue won't go away for KCC, and nor should it. It's a daft idea. All it will do, it will mean that a generation of people coming up will suffer because they won't get the support that they need, and it doesn't make any financial sense either in the short term, the medium term, or the long term for KCC. And I think they will suffer because they will be spending more money than they need for getting far fewer results. Just a couple of things. I can confirm that the Cabinet member has accepted my invitation to come and meet with Jim, and she'll be doing that before any decisions are taken, clearly, and before the meeting at County Hall, which I believe is on, I think it's the 20th, it could be the 21st, because currently both dates are in the diary. She's also bringing with her the director who's in charge of the family hubs in Kent. So we'll have them both on site to talk to Jim and the staff, and hopefully that will help her see sense in understanding what this centre means. Reference was made to Blackburn Lodge, and that decision went against us today at KCC. There were members over there that did propose that it stayed open for a short, sort of stay of execution. Unfortunately, the committee decided against that. But I think we have a very strong case here with Seashells to persuade the committee in November that it should be giving the advice to the Cabinet member to keep Seashells open for the benefit of all. I won't rehearse all the arguments. I think Councillor Harrison and Jim in particular made those points very well, but I would urge everybody, as we keep saying, fill in the consultation responses. Let's get those numbers up. I've built also, just finally, Chairman, through and Jim's aware of this, but I've been working with the group that are looking to save Millmead in Margate, so that we do have a joint approach between the two centres and local members at KCC. When we come to speak on this, we will have a very joined up message for the Cabinet member from both Millmead and from Seashells. I think it's really important that the two centres work as closely as they can in defending themselves. So I'll leave it at that, but thanks for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. As I said at the start, Jim, I think he's preaching and converted, and I think you've heard that loud and clear. Wish you every luck, and we're all behind you, and call upon us as and when you need.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone at the back. Agenda item 9, Councillor Worcester, you're here to talk rubbish. No, talk about the waste and street cleansing contract scrutiny review.
So, waste and street cleansing scrutiny review is going on at the moment. Obviously, everybody's been affected by this contract changeover in March. As part of the course, we're always expecting scrutiny of the contractors, and this is the opportunity for it. This presentation has gone to all the area committees, and we're going to show you the presentation and then put you in a bit of more recent information if it's on the cover on the presentation. So, current position as Borough Council, the Purchasing Authority, and it's a statutory duty. The only other thing that isn't a statutory duty is obviously the garden collection, but that is being looked at within the waste scrutiny as well, and it's delivered by a company. Previous contract with Biffa expired in March 2024. and Suez were awarded an 8-year contract per the normal process. We're part of the Kent Joint Waste Partnership, Swale, Ashford and Maidstone Borough Councils. It's a tri-contract. I think the term has been bandied around, and I think the local media has made that quite obvious, that all of the areas have suffered very, very similar issues with their waste contracts at changeover. Current position, when a new contract starts, the period of settling is always anticipated. Over several months of disruption have been experienced by some residents. They've been quite honest about the disruption. There has been several letters of apology, one by Suez, one by Swale. That doesn't mean that negates the problems that the waste contractors had. So the interesting bit, we know that there was a 3-month settling in period, and to answer some of the questions, there are financial penalties for the company on some levels if key issues are not hit, and that obviously kicked in after the 3-month settling in period, just for facts there. On the 16th of July 2024, the Environment and Climate Change Committee agreed that scrutiny review is to be carried out. Now, I was informed that this is part of the normal process for large contract changeovers. So I've entered into it with absolute enthusiasm, because it's definitely needed here. The scrutiny panel of 5 councillors will set up. They're all from the Environment Committee, but this is cross-party. This is not about administration or opposition. This is cross-party, and they represent a variety of wards, but the scrutiny panel will be looking at all wards in its work. We're looking at a range of issues at the start of the new contract, including resources and staffing, data around contract and project management and communications. They are headings, but already taking part in 2 of their workshops. Lots and lots and lots of issues are being discussed. So that is quite a very thin description of what is being talked about, because there are such a lot of issues to cover. We will spend the next couple of months carrying out detailed investigations into these topics using a range of methods of information and feedback, including workshops that I've already just talked about with council officers and Suez representatives, and there will be some very difficult questions in those meetings. Consultation with area committees, which is tonight, and local council liaison forums. A public survey has already been released to ask for people's experiences with the new contract. That finishes on 2nd October. That has been incredibly well received. It had over 1,800 people respond to the consultation, and I've been told and have experienced that usually 12 consultations get very, very fewer responses than that. This evening, I'd like to hear about your experience with the residents, which we fed back to the review. You can also complete the online survey on the link provided. That is available on Swale Council's website. If there is anyone who does not have online access, there are some hard copies just at the back of the room. They're prepaid envelopes. Even if you know somebody that, for instance, won't be able to access it online, take a copy of the survey for them and offer to put it in the post for them. They only have to answer one question for it to be relevant. So it's well worth doing and getting their feedback. Workshops take place throughout September and October, so it's a long, very well thought out piece of work. There's a lot of resources going into the scrutiny group, and so it should be, because it's been one of the most, it's one of the services that affect every single household in the borough. The online public survey closed 2nd October. Area committees and local liaison forums are being consulted in September. And the final report will be presented at the Extraordinary Environment Committee on the 20th of November. That will be a public meeting that you could attend in person, or you could, for instance, log in via YouTube and watch online as it progresses. Any questions? Actually, before we go on to any questions, I just wanted to add a couple of bits that weren't particularly brought up on that. So the important thing is to note that we are not waiting for the end of the scrutiny review to make positive changes to the big contract. On the 16th of September, 3 routes were introduced, and that is on the back of Suez's data to try and make the rounds smaller, more efficient, and to try and cover more properties in a better manner. So it hasn't been Swale that's done that first. Both Ashford and Maidstone have had reroutes, and have got very good responses from it. So we are hoping, can't be sure, but we're definitely hoping that that work is going to make a big effect. And also one of the largest complaints has been the tipping, that they see bin operatives tipping food waste into green bins. What's the point of collecting the food waste? Now, Suez are providing separate bins with tape around it so they can be easily identified, so that you can see that they are tipping into one bin, but it will only be food, and that will be highly identifiable on the ground. So hopefully we'll see less complaints from residents about that as well. Recruitment is happening all the time. You'll be able to see that. You can go on Suez site and you'll see recruitment's happening all the time. And what we must impress to everybody is, just because we've had 1,800 responses, we need more. So totally open, try and get the information out to as many people as possible. We want to hear your views. Right, any questions?
Right, so just on the rerouting, I will say that less than 250 properties on the island were affected by this rerouting that started on Monday, but the impact of the knock-on effect of rerouting elsewhere, but as we said, it makes the routes smaller and more manageable, so it should have an effect on the island. I'm keen to hear from parish and town councillors and members of the public. Borough councillors have been emailed by Janet Hubbins yesterday, asked for a detailed analysis, and we haven't got time for everyone's detailed analysis tonight. So is there any members of the public or parish or town councillors? I'll start with Nikki first.
I've got one question. Now, 6,000 members on our group.
Yep.
You know all their feelings on this whole issue. Why was a contingency plan not put in place as a council? It's your responsibility to have that back up. To avoid all of this carry on, when you say 3 months that you can come up with, it's 2, 4, 6 months, and you still haven't got it right. What's happening?
So it's really easy for me to say, do you know what, I'm going to give you my opinion. And that's exactly what is not needed here. So, for example, you will get answers that actually that is going to be looked at in the waste scrutiny. Officers will be asked about that. They'll be asked how the contract was formed. They'll be asked those questions. And that's the exact sort of question that needs to be put in by members of the public, because it means that we need that breadth. But what we do know is that the previous company, Biffa, were not perfect. And we have to manage expectations that we could do everything possible. There will always still be problems with bins. On the yearly meeting, 2 that I've been to so far, bins are one of the key indicators that always is up and down. So it is really important to manage expectations in that actually it's never going to be perfect. There's never going to be a perfect story because there's too many ups and downs, if that makes sense. So we're looking for better, but we are managing expectations here.
We'll find out at the Environment Committee what the outcome of the scrutiny panel is, and then we'll know the answer to that. Yeah.
The bit that I didn't get is that how can they park one row of bins on a road and not empty them? Drive down to a street and empty all the bins, but not the food bin. That makes sense. So some weeks, both weapons get done at the same time, bonus, happy links. But why empty one bin and not the food bin on the same street? So then you've got a month's worth of stinking food waste in the heat of summer when you're trying to encourage people to use food waste.
Yeah, so just before I answer that, that's not putting up in service. So nobody here is standing up here defending things that are obviously not commonsensical and that we would expect from our being service, would we? So there's layering problems, and one of those problems is how KCC deal with our waste, because our contracts are to take the refuge to areas where it's dealt with. KCC are responsible for those waste areas, and food is one of the areas that we've had consistent issues with. And those questions are going to get bigger because we are creating more waste. All of these questions are a national interest of how do we deal with our waste? How do we deal with our recycling? We're incredibly lucky. One of the options that the government were considering before the election was that we could have had 7 different containers outside of our house, collecting 7 different types of recycling.
the same government suggested it, then decided it was a bad idea, didn't they?
But luckily, it didn't go that way for Swale, but all of these questions are being considered. So it's definitely right to ask that question about food waste, and we know that is one of the issues that has affected a number of different wards, if that makes sense.
Councillor Palmer, you're on the panel, yes.
Yeah, I'm on the scrutiny panel as well, and one of the problems we've had with food waste was the new lorries, there've been lots of technical problems with them actually working, and they had a serious, number of them have just broken. The other one was the two KCC sites that we use, one would take all the rubbish and the recycling and the food waste. That one, they've shut down the food waste on the sites, so now there's only one place that they can go to empty the food waste. So once that container's full, they then have to wait till they get back to the depot, because they're all done on weights. So once each compartment reaches a certain weight, they can't put any more food.
So that's very good, it's considered there.
Actually, it's a really key point, and if we could make a note of that, because I think the consideration there has to be how different authorities are partnering with each other, because it's obvious from this that Swale isn't a standalone authority in dealing with waste. We rely on other people rely on us. So I think that is an absolutely legitimate area of concern that we could raise at the scrutiny panel.
Do you have it? Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stuff about the bins and that, but street cleansing as well. I don't know how many times this year I've asked for street clean in the road I live in. And this is even before the new contract, as we move before as well. It took me 5 months for someone to come out because whoever had stuck used sanitary towels to lampposts.
Nice.
And it took 5 months for someone to come and clean that, or clear it up. It's over a year I've been complaining about litter in my road. It was about 3 months ago, someone come up with the road sweep. He looked in the cul-de-sac and just turned around and they didn't even bother to come to clean it. So although there is the bin issues, there's also street cleaning.
I agree, and that's why at the start we said that the contract is held by the same person, so it will be looked at.
Yeah.
And that absolutely is relevant for the scrutiny group, because we know that one of the things that we've decided as a council was that when the statutory responsibility for us is to get rid of your waste.
Yeah.
Which meant that elements like street cleaning, it was a decision that actually that was less of a priority than fixing the waste issues. That will now start to come back as soon as, but it's totally right to highlight it because it is a legitimate concern. And it was made crystal clear for me when actually the alleyway on Richmond Street was highlighted on social media, and I had to contact the officer and say, "Oh, isn't that part of a different contract?" He said, "No, what you're thinking about is when they cut down trees that are over public walkways and things. That growth has come from the detritus because that alleyway hasn't been cleaned properly for a number of years." So absolutely, definitely an area that we're going to be looking at, definitely.
What was I going to say? Oh, my road was also down for deep clean. Contacted Swale Council to say it hadn't been done. Response was that because of the change of contracts, they're reviewing the deep cleans. So why was that whole schedule for the year made before I changed the contract? When that contract?
Because it was a different provider. So for example, because they had a period of change, like I've just said, they've reprioritised making sure the waste is collected first, and then all of the street cleansing
But why
come back.
why, if they know it's going to be a change of contract, why make it in the first place?
I think that's something to take to scrutiny panel.
I imagine that's a really good question, and like I say, I don't want to give opinions, I just want to make sure I give the actual facts that I know, if that's me. Thank you.
Councillor Marchington, as I said, no borough councillors, I'll take you to talking to the town council, please.
When you discuss it, I wanted to point out that is everybody aware what the problem was, why people would not renew the contract? But it was all down to the parking. In highway code, so you can't park within 10 yards or 10 metres to a corner, and everyone's parking, so they've even got to stay goes parking across the corners. And they've got sent some serious letters to us and the police, unless something was done about parking, get the cars off the corners so that people can get round, they were not prepared to reach it in the renewal contract. And that's where it started. And because they said for 4 years, the whole contract is in a lost situation, you're having to remove bits. So it's they're up against a financial issue and they couldn't possibly stay with the fire when they should have, and under the situation as it was, they're not going to the party.
So just to confirm, just on that point, please, quickly, there's going to be some bits that we can't talk about in public. And for example, anything related to the contract, because this question already came up at a different area meeting, and I monitored marketing's response to it. It was very similar. A question was asked about tender and why it wasn't there, and that was very clearly stated that at the moment is an area that we will be looking at, absolutely, but it will be part of the council.
Because the restart has been, now the problem was they were starting smaller vehicles, thinking they would develop it, and it's been good or bad stuff. No one's not in their effort.
Thanks, Bill.
Right, and we'll draw this item to a close and we'll move on to the public forum next.
Just one more point. Councillors have been contacted with an email, our councillors. That isn't just for your point of view. If you've had contact with people that, for example, are not voting in favour, but will not put in communication, that's also our opportunity to raise their voices in this conversation as well, especially if I would say heavily on the vulnerable list, so the clinical collections, the sharps collections and the assisted collections, because they are in the voice that isn't necessarily heard by the other consultation methods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the public forum. So there's lots of items for update, but I think public forum is more important. First up, we have Nikki.
One person winter support. Obviously, with the part of the winter fuel payment by government, Sheppey actually put a mission into place for need first fleet, which is collecting blankets for our elderly and brand new hot water bottles, brand new bed stocks. We will distribute those with the whole community of the island. So once we send it around Leinster, that'll be everywhere. The other thing that we actually do is collecting and donations of food, non-perishables. We are going to be looking to get a charity to actually distribute that. But we would like the charity to be on the island so that then you're not duplicating where the food is going. What we want to know is do you have any other initiatives that you are going to put, but what are you going to do with regards to the water office and initiatives that you have got?
We've got some feedback from Sarah Jane Raglan, who is our community development services manager, who works really closely with KCC and the voluntary sector and social enterprise sector to try to enable different activities, and you may well come across her or not. And she has sort of given us a bit of feedback, because obviously you sent the question through in advance, so thank you for that. So she works closely with these people who provide a number of options for warm hubs throughout the winter, but we don't currently have a list of where these will be located as they're still in the planning stage. So directly as a borough council, we don't run them, but we try to enable and help support those that want to try to set something up. So they're having a think about what might happen in the winter. But once we know the next area committee, which I think is December, we may well have some more information that we can feed back to you. There is positive news about the household support fund, which I believe is that clear, or was certainly at committee, wasn't it? That we can provide information on the household support fund. Has that been extended again to support households through winter, which is a really positive thing. And I know we keep thinking it's going to stop the funding, but the government keep extending it, but it is good news. So we'll continue to work and support families on that through existing support packages and targeting support to those families that will be affected with the removal of the winter grant. So that helps. In addition, the council and partners are running targeted campaigns by writing to households who we know are eligible for the pension credit, to advise them about making a claim. We understand it is pretty complicated, so it's about how do we support people to have the confidence to go through that process. The application is simple compared to things like PIP. However, there will be support because it even a simple. Yeah. And those of you that aren't aware, we are still running as a part of Alliance and the One Swell roadshows. So if you haven't gone down to one of those, please, I would encourage you to do that. Dates are Thursday, the 26th of September at Sheppey Gateway, and Janet can send these out with the minutes. Thursday, the 22nd of October at Faversham Salvation Army, and Thursday, the 21st of November at Sittingbourne Heather House Community Hub. Okay.
You went asked about partners to help distribute seashells, and we've seen tonight, they've in the past dished out sort of warm packs or all sorts of blankets. Sheppey Matters, they run a warm hub and distribute food, bring food bank, can't go wrong with them. Go on then.
Just quickly, Seashell are the main distributors for our household support factor as well, and that service will definitely be affected. As an us at KCC are planning on, just to make it really clear for everybody.
See page 9 for more information on household support bank. Councillor Long.
Just quickly, you say about warm hubs and everything, but if you look at this end of the island, obviously the Eastern Sheppey Community Hub, which is, it's the old police station, basically. We'll probably look at helping as well, then you can get some answers.
Councillor Poynton, is it on this subject? No, okay, I'll put you down on the list. Was that it, Nikki?
There's just one other thing. There seems to have been a problem on your Swale website trying to submit e-petitions. Don't know what it is. You can only actually go into e-petitions and create a new petition. You can't actually upload a link to it. That is something to be
Have you tried recently? Because I attended it.
You know, all day the thing with Swale business.
I think if you email a link to petition to petitions@swale.gov.uk, that's probably the easiest way to submit it.
I think they've been working on it because you mentioned it didn't work, so they're aware of it, so I think it's a question of. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Chris Reid from Sheerness Town Council.
Thank you. This is a suggestion, an idea for the whole island. Because we live on this super sunshiny, seaside, wonderful place called Sheppey, it needs more publicity. There's so many events, there's so many activities, rowing, cycling, swimming, all the wonderful things that go on, all the events that all various people put on. My suggestion is that the various town councils and parish councils on the island should club together an amount of money and employ a tourism officer, somebody who publicises the arts, the heritage of the island. If each of the town councils and parish councils put in, say, between about 5,000 and 10,000, maybe according to how much they get on their precept, put all that money together, employ a person fairly flexibly. I mean, in the summer, there'd probably be more for them to do. They could liaise with Swale Borough Council, because as we all know, Swale Borough Council have had to cut down on their tourism, arts officers, unfortunately, over the years. And also help all the people that are putting events on, because putting an event on is really difficult, because stupid rules that Swale Borough Council have put in place, it's fairly onerous. You put your idea forward and they come back with all these things that they have to do, which normal, ordinary people find really difficult. And if we had a person that liaised regularly with Swell Borough Council. They get to know what you have to do and be able to do it. Coordinate, spend a bit of time putting in for grants, like arts council grants and things like that, heritage grants, but for the things that go on the island. And coordinate between different groups. Partly there's always this thing about everybody puts things on at the same time. They could help to make sure that the events are spaced out over the course of a year. And the town councils and parish councils could work with that person and everything would be wonderful.
Thank you,
That's
Chris.
my idea.
I think your idea is brilliant. Faversham Town Council, they have tourism officer, I think, or something similar. I believe they're part-time. Perhaps that we could look to borrow the rest of their time. But I think the chairs and clerks of the parish council and town council in the island should get together, have a meeting and discuss this further. But I think it's got legs.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, I have Nicola Scott, please.
I've got two questions actually. One links back to the Coastal Park and nothing to do with campus, I might add. The Leighton Coastal Park has vinyls, the signage up at either end that says things like no motorway sport is the key one that we have in history. I don't follow football, but I do know John O, who is the Leighton Lions football pitch manager, and he has a lot of issues with motorised vehicles, quads, motorbikes, paragliders landing on the pitch. Now, it's about to be football season. If his pitch isn't up to a certain standard, no teams can use the pitch at all. And secondly, to fix the pitch, each week comes a fixing it. It's a small club, the one that kept cut in another club last year and hoping to win it again. So actually a very successful football team on the island. But what is the point of having vinyls on place and a coastal park if nothing's done about it? There's not an answer to this, I just wanted to raise it as an issue. My second thing is actually liaison for our council. So I used to be part, just so you know, over 2.5 years ago. Since I left, there has been ongoing concerns, being pissed off with me. So financial regulations are not adhered to. Meetings are being cancelled more than have actually happened. So back in April 2024, local residents got together to do a petition for an election, which was approved by Swale back in April. Nothing's happened about an election taking place. They have 3 vacancies on the parish. So is there not some responsibility for Swale to ensure an election takes place?
I can probably answer that.
I'll go with Councillor Null first.
Yeah, we'll have to be looking into it. Joe Miller is aware of this. They are working on it right now. There were some issues with the application. They have to redo the application from scratch at the moment, so that's currently in progress.
Yeah,
It is being worked on.
So hopefully before we meet again in December, Laysdown Parish Council will be up to full complement.
Yeah, once you get the signatures and fill the application, it will get done, but right now, they're just waiting for that to happen.
And I urge you to speak to the external auditor, if there's issues with the finances.
Well, apparently you're just looking to sign on their internal audit, but I know from the horse's mouth that for 6 months after the councillor had left, he was being allowed to sign checks when he wasn't even a councillor. And there's many, I've reported them to Swale before, there are many financial payments they have made without being agenda items, without being committed the decision to make the payment or not. So I know they're a bit technical parishes, I know this because I work on myself. But surely, if they're breaking financial regulations and they're not meeting, they're not communicating, they've cancelled the September meeting without even agenda being in place, they've just not got this. There's nothing on the notice board to say that September meeting was cancelled. They're not communicating with the residents. How much more can a parish pay for the residents for something like that?
So I'd urge you to write to the local government minister, because parish council is a corporate body itself, so therefore, the only thing Swale looks after are the elections for it and its standards. And obviously precept, so. Yeah. Councillor Staff.
I'm not challenging your response. I was just saying that, isn't there a parish council where, for instance, they've had issues? I don't know if it's the same issues, but Swale had more input on that because they actually put their members on some parish to make sure that parish council could at least meet. And I'm thinking, actually, is that worth having a think about? Because they may be able to have their process documented about how they made their parish council, because I know it's a bit of an audience, but actually this area would be much better than I think decent parish council, I think.
Can I just give you one example? So, April 11th, 2024, there was agenda items, decision was made to advertise for monthly grants cutting maintenance contract, source these quotes and call an extraordinary meeting to get it sorted. So this is to do with graveyard maintenance and ASAM. Now, coincidentally, on the 11th of April 2024, a new company outside of the island was registered with the Company's House to be founded on the 11th of April 2024. An extraordinary meeting on the 5th of April, which none of the residents knew about, so no one was attended, a meeting was held to award the contract for the grounds maintenance. So that was a 2-week process. Now, I'm sure people in this room have been involved in tendering. January takes a lot longer than 2 weeks. The outcome, funny enough, is to award the contract to the company that was only registered 2 weeks prior to being given the contracts. So was there really due diligence in there in shipping out the quality of their work, or who they even are, and they're not even based on that? So is that not a bit fishy?
It does sound it. So I think what you said about Tunstall, I think that's further down the road. I think the first steps is to get the petition in, to get the election. Hopefully then 3 new members can help turn around that parish council. Councillor Poynting, you've got your next on my list.
Yeah, thank you. Just very much like to me recently, I did a brief on that. A number of public bins have disappeared, mostly in Minster. So a resident friend contacted me and inquired as to why, because as soon as you know that someone's account leaving the application. I noticed that the bin had disappeared in Abbey Church, dog waste bin. I've heard rumours that dog waste and normal waste were going to be combined because it goes in the same place. It makes physical sense. But I understand that the meeting recently to decide that to save £50,000, we're going to get rid of a load of bins, including something the Green Party was one of motion did. That's what I've heard. Councillor Whiting has had some contact with me and waiting for some feedback as to who decided voting for that. I don't necessarily disagree with the removal of the combining of bins, but they've taken all the bins away that they've got. They've not put anything in their place. So currently, if you went to the Abbey Cake shop and you got yourself a coffee and you sat at the church and drank a coffee, you've got nowhere to put a bin. No, that's the rubbish, no bin available. So that's just going to encourage me to be. It's going to encourage dog fountains that we cleared up. You're going to go back to finding bags of dog shit in big bags hanging on trees that you get in the countryside with no one. Yeah. So I just want to, I can't understand, I want some reasoning as to who decided that it's a good idea to take bins away and not put something in its place to cover it. And they expect people to walk around with pockets full of dog mess or bits of rubbish that they could drop in accident and go to the road and they ran around and just cut by it. See how they go. So just some reasoning for that was kind of what's been asked of me.
So as part of one of the budget setting processes, I think it's maybe for last year's budget, I think the council had a £3 million shortfall they had to find. One of the proposals was to save £50,000 through removing a certain number of bins. The locations were decided at that point. There's been an audit done of all the bins, and back in March, all councils were sent a list of bins to be removed. Personally, in my ward, I responded and said yes to some and no to others. Where you've got a dog waste bin over there and a normal bin over there and the dog waste can go in there, rather than spend more than someone's council tax paying a company to empty that bin as well as that bin, that was a yes. But where it's, I know that dog waste bin needs to be there. Not only do I put my waste in it, but you know, half a mile away there's no bins, you have got bags hanging in the trees at least. So there was a rationalisation programme. It sounds like there is some areas, I know there's some areas the parish council put in there, they'd like to see bins. I know there's a list of replacement bins needed, and the churchyard is definitely one that's.
Yeah, we said we want to run it in chair.
Well, there's one in the middle, so as you go into the high street, there's been there, so whether that gets moved and we get another one, but that's something I'm sure we'll take away. Councillor Worcester.
So, when we initially looked at.
Sorry, can we extend standing orders, hopefully just the once, please?
Great.
When we looked at the rationalisation as well, it's really important that, for instance, weirdly enough, you and me actually went out into our ward, in real time. And one of the points that I did look to the officer that was with us was that actually Sheppey bins have different seasonal needs. So, for example, I would expect, yes, that at that point, if a bin was not used, then we could have been candidates for bin rationalisation. But the conversation has been had with officers around that there needs to be some shifting, because you cannot do it just once and then think you're going to get this right, because it's about supporting the island all year round, not just on a cold, wet, windy afternoon when nobody's using the bins anyway. So I think there should be capacity movement in that to make sure that residents' needs are filled and officers are well aware of that viewpoint.
Right, we've done the public forum, time is now up. We'll move back to agenda item 10, which is the Sheerness Revival Project. Emma?
Very quickly, Chair, I sort of if you can, but I don't want to dwell on we've got full CGI pictures which are there just by way of giving an artist impression, but you've got the update in your pack, so I'm not going to go through it. Hopefully you've read it, if not, please do. But we've had some really positive progress. We had last week, thank you, Chair of the Planning Committee, the Sheppey College and the Trinity, Master's House applications were approved by Planning Committee, and the one for Beachfields is due to go in October. So we are making progress. The design team have been working with stakeholders, and we've gone out to consultation on various elements of it to make sure that we're engaging in terms of that progress. And that really just, so I'm not going to describe it. But yeah, so we are at that stage now where the design for River 4 is pretty much there. So we're really on track to start the build out, particularly of Beachfields, as we sort of updated last time. And also to say that, good night, that some of you would have met Dean when he's come to present. He's now no longer with the council. He's gone to a new generation job in Rochester, but we have a new lady joined us 2 weeks ago called Inga Lorraine. So you will see her. She will come here and update. And I'll leave it at that, Chair, because I'm conscious of time.
Thank you. I don't see any hands. Agenda item 11, Swale Local Bus Focus Group.
Yeah, just quickly, we haven't had a meeting since, because obviously the area committees and the election, but we did have the focus group today, which pretty much said what Joe Radcliffe said when he was talking about the infrastructure plan, which was that KCC are waiting for announcements on future funding. There is the new bill that's coming through, which talks about franchising. So there's a lot of unknowns, and the bus companies are clearly concerned because obviously they get a lot of subsidy and funding through KCC and government to be able to deliver what they can. I heard tonight again the question that we had around why is there not any buses, and why do they stop on the islands and the Sunday services, all those issues around infrastructure. And I asked that of the bus companies this afternoon. And it essentially is what we said previously here before, which is unless they can be subsidised, they cannot commercially run the service because it's not viable, not enough people use it. And there is no subsidy from KCC that was removed in April 23. And it's a rock and a hard place because we hear that people need that infrastructure and that access. But the bus companies are commercial, even though they are local, and they are really supportive of trying to make bus routes work where they can. And indeed, they have done that. Chalkwell have by introducing the 334 again that wasn't funded. And they are constantly looking for funding packages to make extra provision. But until they can, it's very difficult because they'll be running out of loss. So I know there's been previous conversations about community bus schemes and various other ways, but people have to use the service to make it stack up. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have been the case, which is hence why they've had to stop. But that's the feedback I have on that.
Okay, Nikki, you want to? No, go on. Okay. Agenda item 12 is the Swale Traffic Forum. Due to the general election, there hasn't been a meeting of the Swale Traffic Forum since February. Additionally, an officer who coordinated the group has left Swale Council. If you have any issues, please can you email Councillor Dolly Worcester, who is the Swale Area Committee representative on that board. Next up is agenda item 13, matters arising. You'll find the matters arising update report in the agenda pack, which includes Household Support Fund and Communities Update. Does anybody have any questions on this? That means it's comprehensive. Thank you. We've done agenda item 14. Agenda item 15. Do any parish town councillors or borough councillors have any issues they'd like to raise on behalf of their residents or community in general?
I'd just like to raise the issue of nuisance motorbikes. It is definitely a problem around Sheppey East. I can't speak how much for other areas. It's been a problem for quite a long time. I've had residents calling me getting threatened by people. Going, it's an issue. I've already written to PC Scott, got a response, regarding, how things are reported. So basically you can report it online. People have photos, they have videos, but they can't actually upload it. So this has been discussed, will be passed around. So hopefully we're going to see something come out of it. But it still remains an issue. So people are continuously complaining about this. They are reporting it and nothing's happening. And what I would like to see is a police representative come back to the Sheppey Area Committee like they did last year to talk about some of these issues with the residents.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. I was coming along the high street towards the dining room restaurant, and there was a guy on a blue bike who's under with constant offenders, and I happened to be on my phone texting him out of half. He raced past me at great speed. I didn't take the phone with him. I texted him out of half. He spat around, pulled in front of me, accused me of taking a photo of him, and said, "I know where you live, bitch." And drove off. I don't even know who this guy is. So this is what we're up against. And again, it's about all of them, same offenders.
Councillor, no. If you don't get the right response from the police, you've got 3 reference numbers. I think the community trigger might be the way forward with that.
This wasn't a report, this was actually communicating,
Okay. Anyone have anything else on this item? No? Okay, we move on to, no, we haven't got anything on item 16. Is that it? Okay, so the date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 3rd of December, and that'll be at the Criterion in Bluetown, and the time is 7 minutes past 10. Thank you for coming. See you then. 27 minutes.